Chapter 4:12. The clouds changed, and the sudden sword chi sealed off the sage's path of retreat. The violent sword chi then descended from the sky. Even the might of a sage could not withstand such a force. In an instant, the sword chi sliced him into pieces. The scene before them shocked the army outside. All the cultivators gulped with fear in their eyes. It was too dangerous inside the clouds. Even a sage could die on the spot if he was not careful. Even the 10 great forbidden areas were not as dangerous as this. What's going on with this sea of clouds? Why is it so dangerous? Sages are gone just like that. This is too terrifying. How did the Black Heaven sect come up with this? This is too scary. Not only the million-strong cultivator army, but the spectating cultivators outside the Black Heaven sect were also shocked. They had never heard of a formation like this. How did the Black Heaven sect come up with this? Don't they only have the Black Heaven sword formation? How did they get something like this? It must be Chu Kuangren's doing. That's right. Other than him, I can't think of anyone else who could do something like this. But how did he do it? The spectating cultivators were shocked. Initially, they thought that the operation to annihilate the Black Heaven sect would end like a hot knife through butter. However, they did not expect the Black Heaven sect to come up with such a terrifying formation. Not only did the Black Heaven sect remain unscathed, but their own side had already lost their sages and tens of thousands of cultivators. D*M*. What's going on with the Black Heaven sect? How did they come up with a formation like this? Why can't those tens of thousands of cultivators move? Also, where did the sword chi come from? How much of this formation is this, or is this just the tip of the iceberg? Grey Lord Sage was furious, and his face was extremely gloomy. He felt a deep sense of helplessness in the face of this formation. Sage Ruler, I'm afraid we can't break this formation with our current strength. Please help us. Grey Lord Sage said to the ferry boat behind him. Useless. Sage Ruler Zhang Guang's cold voice came from the ferry boat. Purple Void, go in and take a look at this formation yourself. Use the shift talisman to leave if you're in danger, Sage Ruler Zhang Guang said. Yes. A person immediately flew out of the ferry boat. This person was none other than the Heavenly Golden Palace's Purple Void Sage, who was second only to the Sage Ruler and had the combat strength of a 7-step Great Sage. He was extremely powerful. Look, the unknown lands have sent someone over. I wonder if he can break the formation. Just one person? It's going to be really dangerous. TSK, actually, the unknown lands don't care whether this person can break the formation or not. They just want to find out the truth of the formation first. I see, the Purple Void Sage plunged headfirst into the clouds. Initially, he wanted to fly directly to the Longevity Hall, but the moment he entered the formation, he felt a terrifying pressure coming from above. In the sea of clouds, there was a dragon-like existence that was more than 10,000 feet long, formed from clouds and mist, staring at him. That terrifying pressure made even a great saint like him shudder. When the cultivators outside the array saw the dragon, they all sucked in a breath of cold air and felt goosebumps all over their bodies. There was a dragon hidden in the sea of clouds. What kind of array is this? The few saint kings in the ferry boat could not help but stand up. A dragon had appeared in the sea of clouds. The Purple Void Sage was so scared that his face turned pale. He did not dare to stay in mid-air any longer and quickly returned to the ground. He only breathed a sigh of relief when he could no longer see the dragon. He said with lingering fear, "That dragon is too terrifying. I even suspect that I'll die if it pokes me with its finger." He took out his communication compass and reported the situation. Sect leader, there's a dragon in the sky above this formation. Although it's not a physical entity and might be part of the formation, I can clearly sense that the dragon is extremely terrifying. It's best not to fight it head-on. The sky isn't suitable. I'll try to travel by land." After saying that, the Purple Void Sage continued to travel through the formation. The astonishing Cloud of Seas formation was extremely strange. The clouds and mist had the ability to block spiritual thoughts, so the Purple Void Sage could not sense anything more than 5 kilometers in front of him. Therefore, he did not dare to rush in recklessly, so he carefully explored. He arrived at the valley where tens of thousands of cultivators had died. Suddenly, he felt that his movement had become extremely difficult. The people outside the clouds also noticed that something was wrong. "No way, even great sages have fallen for it." "What's wrong, Purple Void?" Sage ruler Zhang Guang asked with a frown. "There's a force in this valley that's restricting my movements. This force seems to be coming from underground. It's Earth Qi. It's the Earth Qi that's binding my feet, making it hard for me to move." While he was reporting, a rolling boulder came from afar. The Purple Void Sage scoffed. He was not afraid at all. A mysterious Daoist rhyme manifested from his palms and slammed toward the rolling boulder. The two forces collided with each other. The rolling boulder shattered. The Purple Void Sage was unscathed. Following that, a large amount of sword chi appeared around him, trapping him in place. Above his head, a huge sword shadow appeared out of thin air. "Humph, come at me." The Purple Void Sage scoffed. Daoist rhyme circulated around his body as he threw a punch upward. The fist force and the sword shadow intertwined and shattered, shaking the entire valley. Amidst the billowing dust, the Purple Void Sage stood proudly. "Nice. As expected of a 7th-step great sage. His strength is indeed unfathomable." The coalition army cheered. Even Greylord Sage and the Solar and Lunar Sages were ashamed of their inferiority. "We're all great sages, but the difference between a 7th-step great sage and us, who have just become great sages not too long ago, is just too great." Indeed. Meanwhile, inside the formation, Purple Void Sage had just blocked the sword shadow and then activated his spiritual energy to shatter the sword chi and earth chi that surrounded him. He continued to venture deeper into the formation. Along the way, everyone saw more of the mysteries of this formation. As he went deeper, the attacks that Purple Void Sage encountered increased. There were storms, sword chi, flames, water currents, and many more. They came in an endless stream and were impossible to guard against. No one knew what kind of danger they would face in the next moment. Whirlpools that could devour people suddenly appeared on the calm surface of the water, and the air of the forest that was originally filled with the fragrance of flowers and birds was suddenly filled with poison. Everyone's hearts trembled with fear and were incomparably horrified. The clouds are treacherous and impossible to guard against. What kind of formation is this? Even the most powerful saint-level formation isn't this terrifying. Greylord Sage said with a trembling voice. Even if he went in, he would most likely die without a doubt. He believed that if he had led the million-strong army to attack earlier, more than half of them would have perished in this formation. Inside the formation, Purple Void Sage could vaguely see the mountain entrance of the Black Heaven sect. He had encountered countless dangers along the way, but he managed to overcome them with his powerful strength and various trump cards. Even so, he was already covered in wounds. Chu Quangren is in the Black Heaven sect. You're no match for him. Purple Void, come back, Sage ruler Zhang Guang said. The reason he allowed Purple Void Sage to enter the formation was to investigate the structure of this formation. Now, he had achieved his goal. All right. Purple Void Sage nodded and took out a shift talisman to leave. However, when he crushed the talisman, his expression changed drastically. Chapter 413. The shift talisman was an ultimate treasure for escaping. It allowed one to teleport thousands or even hundreds of thousands of miles in the blink of an eye using spatial energy. The most valuable of these talismans was known as the Greater Shift Talisman. Although the Shift Talisman in Purple Void Sage's hand was not as powerful as the Greater Shift Talisman, it could still teleport him thousands of miles away in the blink of an eye. Even 10 sage rulers would not be able to stop him. However, when he tried to use the Shift Talisman, he realized that the spatial energy contained within the Shift Talisman could only cause slight ripples in the void. It was unable to teleport him out of the formation. It was as if the surrounding space had been sealed. What's going on? Why is the Shift Talisman not working? Space. The space here has been sealed by some sort of energy. Damn it, it's this formation. This formation can even seal space. Purple Void Sage was horrified. The main reason he dared to enter the astonishing Cloud of Seas formation was because of the Shift Talisman. It could teleport him away at the most crucial moment. However, the Shift Talisman had failed. Purple Void, come back. Sage ruler Zhang Guang hurriedly called out after noticing the abnormality. Purple Void did not dare to be careless. Since the Shift Talisman could not be used, he would return the way he came. He turned around to leave. However, the moment he turned around, an indescribable pressure enveloped him. At that moment, his body and soul seemed to have fallen into an abyss of fear, and he could not help but tremble uncontrollably. A ferocious dragon had suddenly appeared in front of him. It was the dragon in the Sea of Clouds. At this moment, the human-sized head was right in front of Zisu, less than 10 feet away from him, staring at him without blinking. Outside the formation, countless cultivators sucked in a breath of cold air in fear. The image transmitted by the vision-transmitting stone happened to show the ferocious dragon head, which occupied the entire screen. The pair of cold, emotionless, and domineering eyes were not only staring at Purple Void Sage, but also at the million-strong army of cultivators, as well as everyone who was watching the battle. It sent chills down their spines. Even though they were not facing it themselves, they could feel its ferocious aura just by looking at the image on the vision-transmitting stone. However, what they felt was far less than a millionth of what Purple Void Sage was feeling. All they could see was an image, but Purple Void Sage was standing right in front of this terrifying cloud dragon. Damn it, I can't just sit here and wait for death. After all, the Purple Void Sage was a peak great sage. His Daoist heart was extremely resilient, and he soon broke free from his fear. The spiritual power in his body erupted and gathered in his 5 fingers. An incomparably surging Daoist rhyme erupted in an instant. Heavenly Wind Saint Fist. The moment he punched out, the surrounding wind and clouds surged. This was an extremely powerful pseudo-emperor technique. Purple Illusionary Sage had been studying this pseudo-emperor technique for many years and had reached an extremely profound level. A storm swirled around his fist as if it could destroy everything. Even a Sage King would not be able to easily block this punch. But at this moment, Yunlong's eyes widened in anger and he suddenly roared. Roar! An incomparably loud and clear dragon roar resounded throughout the world. The sound waves, which were almost tangible, were mixed with the power of the astonishing Cloud of Seas formation. The mountains trembled, and even the heavens and earth trembled. The Purple Void Sage, who was at the forefront, bore the brunt of the attack. The Daoist rhyme and spiritual power on his fist instantly dissipated. As the roar rang out, Purple Void Sage's attack crumbled. His eardrums burst, and blood gushed out. His body cracked, and bloody wounds appeared all over his body. He looked like a porcelain vase that could shatter at any moment. His entire body was sent flying and he fell to the ground in an extremely pathetic manner. Arg, my ears, my eyes, Purple Void Sage lay on the ground, rolling around in agony. Boundless fear shrouded him, and he almost lost his mind. Then, Yunlong slowly extended his dragon claw. He tapped it lightly. Purple Void Sage's body exploded on the spot. A black stone spun a few times on the ground. It was the vision-transmitting stone that was specially used to transmit images. Outside the formation, there was dead silence. Through the screen, they saw Yun Long's vigorous figure soaring into the sky and diving into the sea of clouds. At the same time, they were shocked by the terrifying power of his opponent. With a single roar, a 7-step great sage was crippled. What kind of terrifying power was that? Is this the true strength of this formation? It's too terrifying. This formation is not something that can be broken by humans. The million-strong army was scared out of their wits by Yun Long's roar. Even the sages at the scene could not help but shudder. In front of that Yun Long, their strength was nothing. Purple Void. On the ferry boat, sage ruler Zhang Guang was so furious that his face turned green. Purple Void was not only an elder of the heavenly Golden Palace, but he had also assisted him for many years and had a deep friendship with him. Now that Purple Void had died in the formation set up by the Black Heaven sect, sage ruler Zhang Guang's hatred towards the Black Heaven sect and Chu Kuangren grew even more. Chu Kuangren, I'll kill you. Sage ruler Zhang Guang gritted his teeth and said. That Yun Long's combat strength is comparable to a top-notch sage ruler. I'm afraid it won't be easy to deal with him using normal techniques. Brother Zhang Guang, please calm down. Master Daoist Yun Tao said. Of course I know that. Sage ruler Zhang Guang took a deep breath and forced himself to calm down. Look, someone's coming out. Someone in the crowd exclaimed. Then, 2 people walked out from outside the Black Heaven sect's mountain entrance. It was Chu Kuangren and Lan Yu. Lan Yu picked up the vision-transmitting stone from the ground and aimed it at Chu Kuangren. A flawless face instantly filled half of the screen. Among the spectators, there were many female cultivators. When they saw that face on the screen, their hearts could not help but tremble. It was too beautiful. That face was definitely the creator's most perfect creation. How could there be such a good-looking person in this world? At the thought that Chu Kuangren might fall in this great battle, many female cultivators could not help but grieve and cry out in anguish. Lan Yu, you're holding it too close. At that moment, Chu Kuangren spoke on the screen. Lan Yu took 2 steps back. Ahem, everyone, I hope you've been well. Chu Kuangren coughed twice and smiled at the million-strong army. After the test just now, I'm sure everyone here has a general understanding of my Black Heaven sect's formation. To be honest, this is my first time using this formation in battle, so I'm not very familiar with it yet. I apologize for my poor performance. Chu Kuangren's words echoed in the ears of countless cultivators. Seeing how casual and relaxed he looked, the crowd gritted their teeth in anger. The crowd had come with great momentum to destroy the Black Heaven sect. Yet now, they were blocked outside by a formation. Even the Black Heaven sect's mountain entrance was inside, and they were still losing their soldiers. It was a very frustrating feeling. To be honest, I don't like fighting and killing, but you guys just had to force my hand. Why did you have to do this? How about this? Let's sit down and talk. You guys can compensate my Black Heaven sect with tens of billions of soul stones and a few emperor weapons. I'm a very kind person, so I can forgive you. Chu Kuangren continued. Sage Zhang Guang and the others were so angry that their bodies trembled. This was too infuriating. Tens of billions of soul stones? Emperor weapons? Who was the one fighting who now? Look carefully, we're the ones who surrounded the Black Heaven sect, not the other way around. Even if we're going to ask for something, we should be the ones asking for it. How arrogant! How arrogant! The craggy Ocean Tower Lord was so angry that his chest heaved and his face turned red. Chapter 4:14. How arrogant! How arrogant! The craggy Ocean Tower Lord was so angry that his face turned red and his chest heaved. The other sage rulers did not look any better either. The million-strong army was humiliated as well. Chu Kuangren. Don't you dare be so arrogant. Do you think you can rest easy with this formation? You must be dreaming. We've fully understood this formation of yours. The day we break it will be the day your Black Heaven sect falls and your death. Grey Lord Sage was the first to lose his patience and roared. From afar, Chu Kuangren seemed to have heard his words. Oh my, I think someone's making a ruckus. It doesn't matter. If you guys insist on dying, I can't stop you. However, I'll say it again. You bunch of rotten fish and shrimps want to destroy my Black Heaven sect. In your dreams. Come, let's see who's going to be the one to destroy who. Chu Kuangren was about to leave when he suddenly remembered something. I almost forgot, Brother Yuntao. Thank you for sponsoring so many Supreme-tier Chalcedonies. They're quite useful. Then, the light screen shattered. It was obvious that the vision-transmitting stone had been destroyed. His last words left everyone dumbfounded. Thank Master Daoist Yuntao. What did he mean? I think Master Daoist Yuntao is the Ethereal Rapture's sect leader. Why would Chu Kuangren thank him? In the ferry boat, the other 5 sage kings looked at Daoist Yuntao with unfriendly gazes. Brother Yuntao, what does Chu Kuangren mean? Do you have some kind of deal with him? Ethereal Rapture's Chalcedonies are supreme-tier formation materials. Could it be that Chu Kuangren's formation is made of Chalcedonies? The sage rulers, especially sage ruler Zhang Guang, glared at Chu Kuangren as if they were about to devour him. Master Daoist Yuntao snorted. What kind of deal could I have with Chu Kuangren? He came to Ethereal Rapture to ask for Chalcedonies back then. He then told them about Chu Kuangren's exchange of Chalcedonies. Every time he thought about it, his heart ached so much that it felt like it was bleeding. Even if Ethereal Rapture were to mine for tens of thousands of years, they might not be able to accumulate so many celestial essence crystals and peerless Chalcedony. Chu Kuangren had taken it away just like that. He had used a mere 1 billion spirit stones, which was almost equivalent to giving it away for free. Now that he thought about how the formation that was blocking them could very well have been set up using the jade essence that the other party had obtained from the Ethereal Rapture, Daoist Yuntao felt the urge to vomit blood. He was so angry that his vision turned black. Humph, that better be the case. Seeing that Daoist Yuntao did not seem to be lying, Sage King Zhangguang snorted coldly and did not say anything else. It has always been so. Master Daoist Yuntao was also very dissatisfied with the crowd's doubts. He hated Chu Kuangren so much that he gritted his teeth. Why would he still help him? This group of idiots. Do they only have brains and don't use them? Let everyone enter the formation. Sage King Zhangguang said. Everyone was slightly taken aback by his words. Isn't this a little risky? Humph. Zisu has already figured out the structure of this formation for us. We just need to pay more attention. As for taking the risk, they're just a bunch of ants. They're just cannon fodder. What's there to worry about? Sage King Zhangguang said coldly. The Saint Kings thought for a while and nodded. With that, the Sage King's order was passed down. When Grey Lord Sage, Solar and Lunar Sages, and Celestial Sage received the order, their expressions turned gloomy. Sage rulers, are they planning to use us as cannon fodder? D****. These are all people from our orthodoxy. Besides Purple Void Sage, none of their people are dead. Solar and Lunar Sages said unhappily. If I knew this was going to happen, I wouldn't have come. Celestial Sage gritted his teeth, feeling a little regretful. Compared to the Sky Emperor Palace, Overlord Sage Tribe, and the 36 oceanic islands who had a grudge against Chu Kuangren, the 8-Wind Palace did not hold any grudges against Chu Kuangren other than losing some soul stones to him. He did not have to interfere in this matter. However, in order to build a good relationship with the unknown lands, he still came. Initially, he thought that the 8-Wind Palace would not suffer any casualties after destroying the Black Heaven sect. He did not expect things to turn out this way. Now that things have come to this, there's no turning back. Grey Lord Sage said in a deep voice. Ever since they joined this operation, they could not get out of it. They come and go as they please? Did they really think the unknown lands would let them do as they please? Grey Lord Sage believed that if they said they wanted to leave now, the sage rulers would probably give them a slap each. There's no turning back now. Let's continue forward. Grey Lord Sage said. The other sages gritted their teeth and continued forward. One by one, the ferry boats entered the astonishing cloud of seas formation. The cultivators who were watching from the outside raised their heads and tried to use their spiritual thoughts to peek inside. However, it was useless. Even so, no one wanted to leave. This battle was too exciting, and everyone wanted to witness the final outcome. Inside the astonishing cloud of seas formation, the ferry boats entered. Since Purple Void Sage had helped them scout the way earlier, they had basically understood the structure of the astonishing cloud of seas formation. As long as they were careful, they would be able to avoid it. At least, that was what they thought. You guys continue to advance towards the Black Heaven sect. Leave the cloud dragon in the sky to us, Sage Zhang Guang said to Grey Lord Sage. Grey Lord Sage breathed a sigh of relief when he heard that. Although the sage rulers treated them as cannon fodder, it did not seem like they would simply let them die. After giving it some thought, Grey Lord Sage could guess what was going on. After all, they could not deal with the cloud dragon. Going up there would only be suicide, and their deaths would be worthless. Instead of letting them deal with the cloud dragon, why not leave them alive to deal with Chu Kuangren and see if Chu Kuangren had any other trump cards? At the end of the day, they were still cannon fodder. They would only be used as cannon fodder to deal with others. Everyone, be careful. This formation may be powerful, but as long as we carefully avoid the dangerous spots, we can. Before Grey Lord Sage could finish his sentence, fiery meteors suddenly fell from the sky towards the ferry boats. Some ferry boats could not activate their defensive formations in time, so they were smashed to the ground and burned to ashes one by one. The sudden change caused everyone to turn pale with fright. How could this be? *M*, there was no formation here when Purple Void Sage entered. How did this happen? Don't panic. Activate the formation. Inside the Longevity Hall, there was a celestial chalcedony tablet in front of Chu Kuangren. On it, there were light spots that were constantly changing, and each light spot represented a formation within the astonishing cloud of seas formation. The astonishing cloud of seas formation was a large formation. It was also a composite formation that was formed by countless formations. Among them, the most important thing was that these formations could be combined and changed at will. There was no fixed safe route at all. The astonishing cloud of seas formation is a treacherous formation. If it never changes, how could it be called treacherous? Chu Kuangren stroked his chin and smiled. With a wave of his hand, a light screen appeared on the tablet. It was the scene of Grey Lord Sage and the others dealing with the formation. Chapter 4:15. Black Heaven Sect. Inside the astonishing cloud of seas formation, Grey Lord Sage, the solar and lunar sages, and the others were busy dealing with the fiery meteors that were descending from the sky. However, the fiery meteors were extremely powerful. Any one of them had the strength of an honorable, and the hundreds and thousands of fiery meteors were so powerful that many of the ferry boats were severely damaged. Even after activating their defensive formations, they could only barely hold on. Solar collapse. Lunar fall. The solar and lunar sages from the outer seas roared as their Daoist rhymes circulated and merged in the void, forming an extremely powerful force that instantly exploded. The combination of sunlight and moonlight smashed into the sky. With a loud explosion, the dazzling light covered half of the sky. Countless fiery meteors exploded under this force. Onward! The solar and lunar sages roared. One by one, the ferry boats continued to move towards the Black Heaven sect. Midway, wind and lightning converged and streaks of blue lightning appeared in the void, dancing wildly in the sky. Humph, playing with lightning in front of the Thunder Falcon tribe? What a joke! Among the Cultivator army, the Thunder Falcon tribe members dashed out and transformed into their true forms. Their wings that covered the sky radiated with lightning. Dense lightning-based Daoist rhymes exploded in the void. They fought lightning with lightning. Boom, 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 the void continued to explode, and a huge amount of lightning poured out. Hundreds and thousands of Thunder Falcon tribe cultivators controlled the lightning to clear a path for the Cultivator army, allowing them to pass through the lightning formation. However, there were still many changes after that. Windstorms, sword chi, sandstorms, all sorts of changes in the formation caused the Cultivator army to suffer more and more casualties. Even a sage would not be able to protect himself under the countless changes in the array formation, let alone the other cultivators. In less than an hour, more than half of the million-strong army had died. They were still thousands of kilometers away from the Black Heaven sect. Less than a third of them had left. D****. If this goes on, most of us will die before we even reach the Black Heaven sect's entrance. This formation can change on its own. Purple Void Sage died for nothing. The sage's expressions were extremely grim. In front of them, several figures were flying towards them. These figures looked exactly like Chu Kuangren. Tens of thousands of sword chi filled the void and wreaked havoc. It was so terrifying that it felt like an army of thousands. That's Chu Kuangren's clone technique. Wow, this guy has so many tricks up his sleeves. Everyone held their weapons and readied themselves. At that moment, a roar came from the giant ferry boat. Chu Kuangren, sword sword. A beam of golden light shot out from the ferry boat, intertwining in the void, forming a magnificent picture scroll. The painting was thousands of feet long, and there were mountains and seas inside. Between the forests, there were tigers, leopards, wolves, wild oxen, horses, birds, and many other animals. An incomparably mysterious Daoist rhyme spread out, shaking the heavens and earth. Immediately afterward, the exotic beasts in the painting roared in unison before charging out of the painting and colliding with the sword chi clone. These beasts did not have beasts. Sect beast king beasts. But the power they contained was real. Countless beasts and clones clashed together, causing an intense battle to erupt. Sword chi and the power of beasts clashed fiercely. The surrounding mountains and rivers shook, and the sea of clouds rolled. The cultivators couldn't help but click their tongues as they watched the army of strange beasts contend with the sword chi clones. Then they looked at the mysterious painting floating in the sky with strange beasts constantly charging out. They felt that the unknown lands were extraordinary. What is this? How can it be so powerful? This thing can actually contain so many strange beasts. Truly extraordinary. Inside the ferry boat, the sage rulers looked at the craggy ocean tower lord in awe. Is this the craggy ocean tower's mountain ocean scroll? Rumor has it that this object contains the souls of many strange beasts. It is indeed extraordinary. I've heard that the mountain and sea scroll contains the origin souls of 4 great beasts. They are the Taowu, the Taotai, the Qiongqi, and the primal chaos. I wonder if that's true. Sage ruler Zhang Guang smiled faintly. It's just a fierce beast's origin soul that was imitated from the origin souls of other strange beasts. It's far from being comparable to a real fierce beast's origin soul. The craggy ocean tower lord said indifferently. The 4 great fierce beasts were famous existences in ancient times, but they had long gone extinct in the firmament star. Even though the craggy ocean tower had a long history, they could not find any traces of the 4 great fierce beasts. They could only capture some strange beasts' bestial souls according to the records and modify them into fierce beasts. Although they were powerful, they could not compare to the real fierce beasts. Even so, the mountain and sea scroll was not to be underestimated. In the air, the mountain and sea scroll radiated with boundless divine light. One by one, the strange beasts' bestial souls rushed out and fought the sword chi clones. Under the power of the mountain and sea scroll, even though Chu Kuangren's sword chi clones each had the combat strength of an honorable, they could not withstand the impact of the thousands of strange beasts' bestial souls. Humph, today, I shall use the mountain and sea scroll to break your formation. The craggy ocean tower lord walked out of the ferry boat and said proudly. The Daoist rhymes on his body circulated and resonated with the thousands of strange beasts' bestial souls. They let out a series of roars that shook the heavens and the earth. At that moment, in the direction of the Black Heaven sect, a flame suddenly shot into the sky. Within the flame, there seemed to be a pair of wings that were spread open, emitting waves of auspicious light. A deafening cry of a phoenix echoed across the heavens and the earth. A surge of divine beast aura swept out from the flame, causing all the strange beasts' bestial souls to tremble uncontrollably. Some of the weaker strange beasts even prostrated on the ground in submission. As one of the strange beasts prostrated on the ground, the rest of the strange beasts, no matter how strong or weak, could not control themselves under the suppression of such a superior life form. All of them knelt on the ground in unison and let out a whimper. The might of a divine beast was displayed to its fullest. The craggy ocean tower lord stood on the ferry boat. The arrogant expression on his face was no longer there. Instead, it was filled with uncertainty. He had just finished speaking, and he was slapped in the face in the next instant. This was too fast. He could feel that not only the strange beasts in front of him, but even the 4 strongest wild beasts in the mountain and sea scroll were trembling in fear. Perhaps these wild beasts' cultivation levels were higher than the godly phoenixes, but that was the difference in their life forms. It was the suppression of a superior species over an inferior species. So this is a divine beast? It's indeed extraordinary. The craggy ocean tower lord stared at the Black Heaven sect with a gloomy expression and a hint of excitement. If he could extract this divine beast's soul, be it refined into a bestial soul seed or fuse it into the mountain and sea scroll, it would be of great help to the craggy ocean tower. Given time, when the godly phoenix's bestial soul was fully grown, it would not be impossible for the craggy ocean tower to become an emperor-level orthodoxy. At that thought, the craggy ocean tower lord's heart burned with passion. He looked in the direction of the Black Heaven sect with a burning gaze. He had already made up his mind. No matter what, he was determined to obtain the godly phoenix's soul. At that moment, a flame flew over from afar. The godly phoenix's elegant and noble figure gradually appeared before everyone. Its blood-red feathers emitted an auspicious aura. Wherever it went, countless strange beasts lowered their heads even more. Not a single strange beast dared to look directly at this beautiful divine beast. Chapter 4:16. I am the Black Heaven sect's godly phoenix, Chu Hong. You shall not be forgiven for invading the Black Heaven sect. The godly phoenix, Lil Red, said coldly. Although she sounded like a 7- or 8-year-old girl, the bestial souls could clearly sense her anger. Instinctively, they trembled even more violently. Then, Lil Red opened her mouth and spat out a ball of golden flames. The flames were extremely terrifying. The purest fire-based Daoist rhymes swirled around the flames, causing the void to distort from the heat. The flames landed in the midst of the strange beasts. Some of the strange beasts' bestial souls did not even have time to scream before they were burned into ashes. B****, how dare you? The craggy ocean tower lord's expression changed. He wanted to capture the godly phoenix on the spot. He was a sage ruler. No matter how powerful the godly phoenix was, she had yet to ascend to the sage realm. Naturally, she was no match for him. He had absolute confidence that he could capture her alive. However, at that moment, from the sea of clouds, many longswords suddenly shot out. They were the long swords that were scattered in the sea of clouds after the Black Heaven sword formation was broken. At that moment, as if they were being controlled by an invisible force, the long swords formed a sword formation again and surrounded the ferry boat that the sage ruler was on. Majestic sword chi and Daoist rhymes were raging. Everyone could clearly feel that this was a sword formation that was much more terrifying than the Black Heaven sword formation. The Four Seasons sword formation. D***, hiding a formation within a formation. How did Chu Quanren manage to do this? How can he control this sword formation when he's not here? The craggy ocean tower lord was puzzled, but the sword formation's power was already upon him. He did not have much time to think. He raised his hand and channeled his spiritual power to fight against the sword formation. A terrifying sage ruler's power erupted as he shouted at the ferry boat, "Those inside, stop hiding. Come out and break the formation." The Four Seasons sword formation's power was so terrifying that even the craggy ocean tower lord could feel waves of pressure. Two figures walked out of the ferry boat. They were the Acheron Manor Lord and the Palace Lord of Death. They looked at the sword formation with a serious expression. What made them even more serious was that outside the sword formation, a loud dragon roar could be heard as the sea of clouds rumbled. Among the sea of clouds, a ferocious cloud dragon that was tens of thousands of meters long soared into the sky. Wherever it went, the ferry boat was easily destroyed. Even a sage would find it difficult to defend against its attack. The divine phoenix was also at the side, constantly releasing flames. This dragon and phoenix worked together seamlessly and were killing the army of cultivators without restraint. The Grey Lord Sage, the Sun and Moon Sages, and the others all acted in unison. However, they were only able to slightly slow down the speed of the enemy's massacre. That cloud dragon alone was not something they could resist. As for the Holy King, he was currently being hindered by the sword formation. I have to break the formation quickly and get rid of that cloud dragon. Otherwise, the others will be killed by this dragon and phoenix. As the Acheron Manor Lord spoke, a peerlessly powerful Daoist rhyme erupted from his body. Behind him, the Daoist rhyme intertwined and formed a huge eye. That was the Emperor technique, Eye of the Yellow Spring. The Death Palace Master's body also released a terrifying grey deathly aura. The deathly aura surrounded him and gathered at his fingertips. Emperor Art, Finger of Despair. Let's begin. As the craggy ocean tower lord raised his hand, majestic Daoist rhymes gathered and transformed into a ferocious shadow of a ferocious beast that smashed towards the sword formation. The other two attacked at the same time. The inexorable finger energy, the Eye of the Yellow Springs released demonic light. 3 Emperor techniques and 3 surges of Sage Ruler energy collided with the sword formation. Within the sword formation, the Daoist rhyme of the Four Seasons flowed, and the nature's power of 1,000 creations transformed into a giant colorful sword that came crashing down. A deafening explosion shook the heavens and earth. All sorts of Daoist rhymes collided with each other, and an extremely violent shockwave spread out, continuously attacking the Four Seasons sword formation. Under such an attack, the sword formation was broken. One by one, the swords were scattered in all directions. As the shockwave spread out, the surrounding cultivators exploded one after another. Far away. Inside the Longevity Hall of the Black Heaven sect. Chu Quanren opened his eyes slightly and murmured, "Sure enough, using my mind power to control the sword formation is still not as effective as using my spiritual power." Mind power and spiritual power each had their own unique uses. Most formations required spiritual power to activate. Although Chu Quanren could use his mind power to control them from afar, it was still not as smooth as using spiritual power. Otherwise, the craggy ocean tower lord and the others would not have been able to break the formation so easily. Lil Red, come back. Chu Quanren sent a message to Lil Red. The sage rulers had already broken free from the sword formation. Although Lil Red's current strength could deal with most sages, she was still no match for a sage ruler. Yes. Lil Red turned around and flew back to the Black Heaven sect. Trying to leave? No way. The craggy Ocean Tower Lord, who had already broken the sword formation, could not just watch as the godly phoenix left. He immediately gave chase. However, at that moment, the cloud dragon let out a roar, and the seemingly solid sound waves mixed with the formation's energy swept out in all directions like a tidal wave. Then, the cloud dragon clawed at the craggy Ocean Tower Lord. That attack was so powerful that even a sage ruler could not help but narrow his eyes. He channeled all of his spiritual power and unleashed a punch. With a loud explosion, the void was blasted apart. The craggy Ocean Tower Lord retreated dozens of feet and stared at the cloud dragon solemnly. This being's strength is indeed terrifying. Just one attack was enough to make him feel suffocated. That was undoubtedly the strength of a top-notch sage ruler. Finger of Despair. Demonic Eye of Acheron. Two Emperor techniques were unleashed once again towards the Cloud Dragon. The Cloud Dragon swung its tail fiercely and a powerful force erupted. The two Monarch techniques were shattered and the two Sage Rulers were sent flying. How powerful! Sage Ruler Zhongguang, are you guys not going to make a move? The Acheron Manor Lord looked at the ferry boat. The Great Bottomless Chasm Lord took a step forward, holding a light blue orb in his hand that was flowing with a blue divine radiance. Move aside. Let me deal with this beast. The Great Chasm Lord shouted coldly. He threw the blue orb in his hand into the air. In an instant, an extremely powerful torrential force erupted. The blue divine radiance shone, and the sound of a tsunami rang in everyone's ears. The orb smashed towards the cloud dragon, containing the boundless power of the ocean. The void shook as if it was about to collapse. The cloud dragon roared angrily, causing the mountains to tremble. It clawed at the orb. The two forces collided, causing everything within a radius of 10,000 miles to tremble. The clouds in the surroundings churned, and the cultivators could only stay inside the ferry boat. They tried their best to maintain the ferry boat's defensive formation to resist the aftershock of the impact. Die, you beast! The Great Chasm Lord roared angrily. His spiritual power kept surging into the orb, and the boundless power of the ocean surged, crazily scouring the cloud dragon's body. The body made of clouds and mist continued to disintegrate and explode. Finally, the cloud dragon dissipated. However, the boundless power of the ocean surged towards the Black Heaven sect like a hot knife through butter. Wherever it went, there was no formation that could stop it. Not long after, the mountains and forests had all turned into a swamp. Just as the boundless power of the ocean reached the Black Heaven sect's mountain gate and was about to crash into it, the torrent of water suddenly stopped. The endless torrent of water stopped in front of the Black Heaven sect's mountain gate. Do you want to have a water fight? I'll return it to you. A cold shout came from the depths of the Black Heaven sect. As soon as the words were spoken, the torrent of water and the boundless power of the ocean surged back at an even faster speed. All the water along the way converged and turned into an earth-shattering tsunami. The cultivator army looked extremely tiny in the face of this tsunami. Chapter 4:17. With that, the boundless oceanic energy that the Great Bottomless Chasm Dweller had used a certain treasure to activate was reflected back at him. Not only that, but the energy became even stronger and more violent as it turned into a horrifying tsunami that surged towards the army. Faced with such power, many of the sages at the scene could not help but turn pale, especially the sages of the 36 oceanic islands. Back then, Chu Kuangren had used such power to shock the entire ocean. Such power had once destroyed an entire island. Now, such power had reappeared in front of them. D*M*, Chu Kuangren has the Empyrean Neptune's halberd, so we can't use the torrential force on him. We're in trouble now. What a horrifying tsunami. This power is too strong. Compared to the panic of the cultivator army, the great bottomless chasm dweller was much calmer. Although he looked a little serious at the scene before him, he was still far from panicking. Obviously, Chu Kuangren's counterattack was within his expectations. Oceanic Calming Pearl, stabilize. The great bottomless chasm dweller channeled his spiritual power into the pale blue pearl that was floating in front of him. A vast and boundless energy was emitted from the pearl, and the boundless tsunami that was surging towards it was actually frozen in place. Absorb. The endless torrential force was continuously absorbed into the oceanic calming pearl. Inside the longevity hall, Chu Kuangren was slightly surprised. Oh, this pearl is quite an impressive quasi-emperor weapon. It was able to destroy the cloud dragon and stop the tsunami. Chu Kuangren grinned. Then, he raised his arm and gathered the spiritual qi of the heavens and earth. A purple sword shadow with a majestic aura suddenly slashed out. The sword qi spanned thousands of miles and slashed towards the great bottomless chasm dweller. The sudden sword qi made the great chasm dweller's pupils dilate. He then controlled the oceanic calming pearl to absorb the torrential force while channeling the spiritual power in his body to form a huge palm print that attacked the sword qi. When the two surges of energy collided, the void exploded. The great chasm dweller had overestimated his strength. Chu Kuangren's sword qi was far sharper than he had imagined. The moment the two surges of energy collided, the great chasm dweller, who did not use his full strength because he was controlling the oceanic calming pearl, immediately suffered a backlash. His body trembled and was forced to retreat several feet. The spiritual power that was channeling the sea calming pearl was instantly cut off. Although the sea calming pearl had absorbed a great deal of the torrential power, there was still a portion that had not been fully absorbed. The remaining portion of the torrential power fell upon the army of cultivators, and one immortal boat after another was smashed into pieces. Many cultivators exploded on the spot from the impact of the water currents. Chu Kuangren. The great bottomless chasm dweller gritted his teeth as he stared at the Black Heaven sect in the distance. He had not expected that his opponent's sword qi would be so strong that it could actually reach the level of a saint king. Wasn't he said to be below the level of a saint? You were too careless. On the ferry boat, sage ruler Zhang Guang said, but it's no wonder. You've been living under the sea for a long time, so your understanding of Chu Kuangren is only from others. You've never met him, let alone fought him. The great ruins lord snorted softly and said, this person's control over the sea god's halberd is greater than I imagined. With the sea god's halberd, most of my methods are useless against him. I can only restrain him at most. If that's the case, then aren't you useless? Beside him, the Acheron Manor Lord sneered. The great ruins lord glared at him. If not for the fact that we need to deal with Chu Kuangren first, I would have pulled out your tongue. Oh, do you think I'm afraid of you? The Acheron Manor Lord was not afraid at all. The sage ruler was a prideful person. How could he tolerate someone else's provocation? Alright, aren't we making a fool out of ourselves in front of Chu Kuangren? Sage ruler Zhang Guang snorted coldly. That's right. Master Daoist Yun Tao also tried to smooth things over. Now that the cloud dragon has been destroyed, the threat of this formation is greatly reduced. Let's continue forward, Sage ruler Zhang Guang said to Greylord Sage and the others. Yes. Greylord Sage gritted his teeth. At this point, half of the million-strong army had been destroyed. Along the way, there were corpses of cultivators everywhere. If they could not make friends with the unknown lands in this battle, then they would not be able to make up for their losses. The army continued to move forward. There were still many formations along the way. They trapped, or killed. Even without the cloud dragon, the formation's power was still terrifying. However, a few sage rulers had already intervened. With their help and the sacrifice of nearly 100,000 cultivators, the army finally arrived at the Black Heaven sect's mountain entrance. Looking at the mountain entrance before them, everyone breathed a sigh of relief. It was not easy. It was not easy at all. The damage that the formation inflicted on them was too terrifying. 1,000,000-strong army and nearly 100 sages, many of whom were in the Great Sage realm, could even flatten the Forbidden Area's ancient battlefield. Yet, they continued to suffer heavy casualties in the face of this formation. After paying an unimaginable price, they had only just arrived at the Black Heaven sect's entrance. This was something that no one could have imagined before they came here. In other words, they did not even dare to think about it. Who would have thought that Chu Kuangren could bring out such a powerful formation? This formation is indeed terrifying, but we've already made it through. Let's see what else Chu Kuangren has up his sleeves. Grey Lord Sage snorted. That's right, let's enter the Black Heaven sect. Let's go. Just as the army was about to enter the Black Heaven sect, suddenly, a white-robed figure slowly walked out of the mountain entrance. The moment they saw him, the originally arrogant crowd immediately stopped in their tracks. Some of them could not help but take a few steps back. That person was Chu Kuangren. Holding an ancient sword in his hand, he slowly walked out of the mountain entrance. One man and one sword, facing off against the many cultivators in front of him, including the sages. His robe was as white as snow, spotless, and his face was peerlessly handsome. On the other hand, although the army in front of him had a large number of people, every one of them looked battered and disheveled. They had been tortured by the formation. The contrast was too shocking. TSK, how ugly. They're all sages, but why do they look like beggars? Chu Kuangren shook his head and said. Everyone's expression darkened at his words. Humph, Chu Kuangren, you're already at death's door, yet you're still talking nonsense. Grey Lord Sage snorted and said with a cold gaze. Death's door? Chu Kuangren shook his head and chuckled. I'm curious, who gave you guys such a misconception? Chu Kuangren, are you alone? Celestial Sage's gaze swept back and forth. Why? Are you afraid of an ambush? Humph, what a joke. What's the point of ambushing us with so few people from the Black Heaven sect? Celestial Sage said coldly. He was right. Although they had suffered heavy casualties, they still had more than 100,000 people left. Not only that, but those who survived were the cream of the crop, and more than half of them were battle monarchs and above. Even if the Black Heaven sect came out in full force, it would not be enough. Don't overestimate yourselves. You're not worthy of an ambush. I'm the only one here, and I even came out to avoid damaging the Black Heaven sect's buildings. Do you think you can stop all of us by yourself? I think I can. Chu Kuangren took a step forward, and a sharp sword-based Daoist rhyme erupted. At that moment it was as if a divine sword was unsheathed, and 1,000 mountains trembled. Chapter 4:18. I think it's possible. As he took a step forward, his sword-based Daoist rhyme gushed out. The strength of the Daoist rhyme caused the surrounding void to tremble. Countless cultivators were so shocked that they did not dare to take another step forward. Chu Kuangren's reputation was too great along the way. His invincible stance was engraved in everyone's heart. What's wrong? Didn't you guys come here to deal with me? To deal with me, you've mobilized so many people and caused so much chaos in the world. Now that I'm standing right in front of you, why don't you dare to move? Chu Kuangren glanced at the sages in front of him. Go! A loud voice came from inside the ferry boat. It was Sage Ruler Zhang Guang who had spoken. Grey Lord Sage roared. Kill! Then, a layer of black armor covered his body and he charged out first. He unleashed his overlord physique's power to its limit. Chu Kuangren, pay for the serpent deity's death. The outer seas sages also attacked. All sorts of powerful sage Daoist rhymes erupted. The first to reach Chu Kuangren was Greylord Sage's domineering fist chi, followed by the other sage's powers. The sun and moon energies, torrential energies, sword chi, and saber rays, all sorts of energies and Daoist rhymes surged towards Chu Kuangren. Even a sage ruler would not dare to say that they could handle such power. However, Chu Kuangren unsheathed the Descendant Self sword at his waist and unleashed a purple sword ray that covered half of the sky. The power of that sword ray had forcefully split apart the sage's joint attack. Terrifying sword chi swept across the area. The sages were forced back a few dozen meters while Chu Kuangren himself was also forced back a few hundred meters by the sage's joint attack. Not only that. The attacks of the other 100,000 cultivators had also arrived. All sorts of Daoist rhymes intertwined to form a colorful ocean that attacked Chu Kuangren from all directions. Chu Kuangren flipped his sleeves and the lingering song Guqin appeared. He began to play with it. Guqin music erupted. The seventh movement of the 8 celestial demonic chords, heavenly and earthly echoes. Boom, 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 the Guqin music's Daoist rhymes were like waves that continued to spread. The surging energies from all directions were shattered by the Guqin music. Seeing this, one of the saints took out a huge black stone that was as smooth as a mirror and tossed it into the air. Chu Kuangren, I've been prepared for your Guqin music. The sage laughed. The black stone floated in the air, continuously absorbing the majestic zither music. The entire black stone trembled violently. The cultivators nearby were overjoyed seeing this. This sound-absorbing stone is indeed effective. Great. The Guqin music was restricted, but Chu Kuangren did not stop waving the longsword in his hand. His sword chi danced, and wherever it went, blood would flow like a river. Look at my prime magnet. The Thunder Falcon tribe sage took out a piece of magnet and a powerful suction force instantly restrained the Descendant Self sword in Chu Kuangren's hand. A sound-absorbing stone and a primary magnet. It seems like you've prepared a lot to deal with me. It's a pity that these things might have been useful in the past, but now, they're just scrap metal. With a wave of his sword chi, the Descendant Self sword unleashed a powerful and violent sword ray towards the prime magnet in the Thunder Falcon Saint's hand. The cultivators blocking the way were easily torn apart by the sword light. The prime magnet was struck by the sword light, and with a clang, it shattered into powder. The Thunder Falcon tribe saint was killed on the spot by the sword chi. From then on, the Thunder Falcon tribe no longer had a sage. Chu Kuangren tossed the Descendant Self sword into the air. The long sword circled around him, and surges of sword chi traveled back and forth in all directions. His fingers plucked the Guqin strings, and a majestic Guqin music erupted. The first movement of the 8 celestial demonic chords, Boundless Expanse. Following that was the second movement, the third movement, the fourth movement, the ambush from 10 sides, the fifth movement, the sixth movement, the sixth movement, the seventh movement, the dual reverberation of heaven and earth. The Guqin music Daoist rhyme became more and more majestic, and the sound-absorbing stone in the air continued to tremble. Unable to withstand the pressure, cracks began to appear on it. Finally, with a loud bang, it exploded, and the Guqin music it absorbed exploded in an even more terrifying manner, spreading in all directions. The sage who was controlling the sound-absorbing stone bore the brunt of the attack. He was blasted into pieces by the terrifying Guqin music Daoist rhyme, and died without a complete corpse. Come, come, come. Have a taste of my sword chi and listen to my Guqin music. Otherwise, you'll say that the Black Heaven sect doesn't know how to treat its guests. Chu Kuangren laughed out loud as he plucked the Guqin strings with all 10 fingers. Guqin music Daoist rhyme erupted, and the Descendant Self sword danced along with the Guqin music. It shuttled back and forth around Chu Kuangren, and terrifying sword chi erupted one after another. The Guqin music sword chi was majestic, and it shook the heavens and earth. Chu Kuangren sat down with his legs crossed. His sword chi continued to rumble, and his Guqin music echoed throughout the heavens and earth. Countless cultivators were harvested like wheat, and blood dyed half of the Black Heaven sect's mountain entrance red. Chu Kuangren, don't you dare be so arrogant. At that moment, several figures dashed out from the ferry boat. These people were all great sages, and there were 4 of them in total. They came to Chu Kuangren's surroundings and stood in 4 different directions. Daoist rhymes circulated around their bodies, and a golden qi rose from them. Golden unity qi formation, form. With a low roar, the Daoist rhymes on the 4 great sages resonated with each other, and mysterious runes formed in the void. A majestic Daoist rhyme pressed down on Chu Kuangren like a mountain. Oh, a formation? Chu Kuangren smirked. His 10 fingers plucked, and the Guqi music Daoist rhyme gradually rose to a new height. Final 8 celestial demonic chords, grand note of silence. The final song was silent. However, the majestic Daoist rhyme and the invisible sound waves collided with the golden unity qi formation, and the 4 great sages could not help but tremble. The 4 of them were sent flying, but at the last moment, each of them unleashed a palm attack. 4 surges of palm qi converged in mid-air and turned into a giant dark yellow palm that descended from the sky towards Chu Kuangren. Chu Kuangren plucked the Guqin strings, and the celestial demonic chord finale, grand note of silence, was played again. With a loud explosion, the Daoist rhymes collided and shook 1,000 miles. Clang! The Guqin strings in Chu Kuangren's hands broke one by one under the impact. He looked down at the Guqin and sighed. The power of the 8 celestial demonic chords is too much for a normal Guqin to handle. You've been with me for so long, and it's only today that you can't handle it anymore. Chu Kuangren put away the Guqin, and the descendant self-sword that was circling around him returned to his hand. The moment the long sword was in his hand, the power of the exquisite 9 orifices sword heart erupted, and the 3 great Daoist physique transformations spread out. At the same time, the divine ferocious avatar formed behind him. His battle roar echoed in all directions. Countless surges of Daoist rhymes circulated around his body, and a divine radiance bloomed. The infallible tormented physique and transcendent coalescence were activated at the same time. Sage ruler in the ferry boat, don't just stand there and do nothing. Why don't we attack together? Chu Kuangren looked at the ferry boat and said. As you wish. A majestic palm energy blasted out from the ferry boat. Chu Kuangren unleashed a sword attack, and the power of his 3 great Daoist physiques tore the palm attack apart. His body stood still on the spot. The craggy ocean tower lord slowly walked out from the ferry boat. A sage ruler had attacked. Chu Kuangren activated his eye of revelation and instantly determined the identity and strength of the person in front of him. His eyes were filled with battle intent. Come, let me see what the sage ruler of the unknown lands is capable of. Chu Kuangren pointed his sword at the craggy ocean tower lord. Chapter 419. Chu Kuangren pointed his sword at the craggy ocean tower lord. Both of them stood against the wind as their auras continued to rise. 2 completely different Daoist rhymes clashed against each other. Both of them had yet to move, but their domineering auras were enough to shatter mountains and rivers. Their domineering auras clashed against each other, forming an invisible force field around them. Anyone below the level of a sage would not dare to get too close. Chu Kuangren, before we fight, I have something to ask you. What nonsense is there? Spill it. Did you kill my disciple, Li Zhe? The craggy ocean tower lord asked coldly. Chu Kuangren pondered for a moment before he looked up and asked, Li Zhe, that sounds familiar. Who is he? Veins popped on the craggy ocean tower lord's forehead as he suppressed his anger. He's the young master of the 9-head clan. Did you kill him? Chu Kuangren came to a realization at the mention of the 9-head clan. Oh, you mean the scum who killed his own clan? I think I remember him. Yes, that's right. I killed him. I think he had a bestial soul seed on him too, right? I have it with me too. Chu Kuangren took out the bestial soul seed that he obtained from Li Zhe and said, "Why? Do you want this thing back? I'll kill you." After the craggy ocean tower lord confirmed that Chu Kuangren was the one who killed his beloved disciple, he roared and channeled his spiritual power. A violent palm chi gushed out and formed into a ferocious beast in the void, roaring as it charged forward. Its ferocious chi was so powerful that it seemed like it was going to devour the world. It was one of the 4 great wild beasts, the Tao Tai. In the face of the palm chi that had transformed into a strange beast, Chu Kuangren swung the long sword in his hand horizontally, and an incomparably chilling purple sword ray shone brightly across the sky. Heaven-slaying sword drawing technique. This emperor technique had accompanied Chu Kuangren for a long time. It was the technique that he had used for the longest time, and it was also the technique that he was most familiar with. With that one slash, heaven and earth were destroyed. The ferocious Tao Tai beast was torn apart by the sword chi. The remaining sword chi then charged towards the craggy ocean tower lord. The craggy ocean tower lord could not help but widen his eyes when faced with that sharp sword chi. Despite his sage ruler cultivation level, he raised his hand and unleashed another palm attack. The violent palm chi shattered the sword chi. However, Chu Kuangren had already charged towards him once again. The exquisite 9 orifices sword heart, the infallible tormented physique, and the transcendent coalescence physique were the 3 supreme physiques in the world. The power they contained was what countless cultivators in the world dreamed of. Chu Kuangren, on the other hand, possessed 3 supreme Daoist physiques, and he was able to utilize the power of these 3 supreme Daoist physiques to the fullest, fusing sword chi, ferocious chi, and the transcendental force into each and every move. This kind of power was extremely terrifying. His every move had the power to shake the heavens and earth. This guy is really strong. The craggy ocean tower lord waved both of his palms at Chu Kuangren. Every time the 2 sides collided, it was like 100,000 mountains colliding together. The entire earth and even the sky were shaking. Raging God Fist. After Chu Kuangren forced the craggy ocean tower lord to retreat, he raised his arm and unleashed a punch. The black fist mark burned with fury as it shot out. The craggy ocean tower lord raised his hand and slapped the void. Palm chi intertwined and transformed into a winged tiger beast. It was Qiong Chi. After the fist and palm collided, both sides were forced to retreat. However, Chu Kuangren did not give up. He unleashed all kinds of emperor techniques. Heaven's sorrow palm. As soon as he unleashed his palm attack, an inexplicable sorrowful aura filled the air. Some of the sages seemed to be affected, and their battle intent was greatly reduced. Heart-piercing finger. The heart-piercing finger erupted, questioning the sage's Daoist core. Even the craggy ocean tower lord could not help but be distracted by the 2 types of power that targeted one's mind. His attack was delayed for a moment, and a huge shockwave of energy swept across and crashed into the craggy ocean tower lord's body like a mountain torrent. Even a great sage would instantly explode under such an attack. However, the craggy ocean tower lord's body only trembled. Only a trickle of blood flowed from the corner of his mouth. It seemed like he had only suffered a minor injury. However, that was enough to infuriate him. Chu Kuangren, you sure have a lot of tricks up your sleeves. I didn't expect you to be able to hurt me. The craggy ocean tower lord sneered as his eyes burned with murderous intent. Chu Kuangren's eyes flashed. Oh, you're a sage ruler indeed. Just this sage ruler's body alone is enough to kill most sages. Apart from Daoist rhymes, the most obvious difference between sages and those below them was their sage physique. The spiritual power and Daoist rhymes of a sage's level would nourish and strengthen one's physical body. The stronger one was in the sage realm, the more terrifying one's physical body would be. This was especially true for sages who specialized in strengthening their physical bodies. As a sage ruler, the craggy ocean tower lord had purposely strengthened his sage ruler physique. Chu Kuangren's attack could easily kill a great sage, but it could not do much damage to the craggy ocean tower lord's physical body. Chu Kuangren, that's all you've got. Now, let me show you what I'm really capable of. The craggy ocean tower lord snorted and took out the craggy ocean scroll. In an instant, a magnificent scroll unfurled between the heavens and the earth, and a roar echoed across the sky. Then, 4 terrifying craggy ocean bestial souls walked out of it. One was a ferocious tiger with a pair of wings on its back, one was a fat insect with 6 legs and 4 wings, and its entire body was crimson red like fire. One had bull horns and tiger claws, and it had a ferocious mouth full of sharp teeth. The last one was covered in long golden fur, and it looked like a tiger, but it had the fangs of a wild boar. These were the 4 strongest wild beast bestial souls in the craggy ocean scroll. They were the lust beast, Hundun beast, gluttonous beast, and Bai Wu. Although they were not real wild beast bestial souls as they were created by the craggy ocean tower through some secret technique, they were still very powerful. However, the strength of its power was still not to be underestimated. That terrifying baleful aura filled the void, causing one's heart to palpitate. What a terrifying bestial soul wild beast! The craggy ocean tower's techniques are indeed extraordinary. Each of these wild beasts is at the peak of a great sage. No, their combat strength is close to the level of a sage ruler. This is too terrifying. The sages exclaimed. These 4 great wild beast bestial souls alone were more than enough to take on all the sages from the unknown lands. This was the power of the unknown lands. The 4 beasts, come. Chu Kuangren was fearless as he took the initiative to attack. The moment he made his move, a black armor suddenly appeared on his body, and a ferocious chi that was far stronger than the 4 beasts erupted. What? The craggy ocean tower lord's eyes widened. He was not the only one. The other sage rulers in the ferry boat could not help but stand up with shock on their faces. That armor is an emperor weapon. Another emperor weapon. Other than the Empyrean Neptune's halberd, this guy has another emperor weapon. How is this possible? Emperor weapons were extremely rare. Ever since the disappearance of the last ancient emperor, emperor weapons had basically disappeared from the firmament star. Even in the unknown lands, there were not many who possessed emperor weapons. However, Chu Kuangren alone owned 2 of them. It must be the opportunity of fortune in the Qian Imperial Palace. That's right, that must be it. Otherwise, how else could he have another emperor weapon? Sage ruler Zhang Guang said. The sage rulers quickly figured out the origin of the innate ferocious armor. Meanwhile, Chu Kuangren was already locked in battle with the 4 wild beasts. The ferocious beast chi and the emperor weapon's ferocious chi collided. However, it did not take long for the 4 beasts' ferocious chi to be completely suppressed. Chapter 420. The 4 beasts of the mountain and ocean scroll were extremely powerful. Each of them was infinitely close to becoming a sage ruler, and their combined combat strength was something that even a sage ruler would have to be careful of. However, after Chu Kuangren activated his innate ferocious armor, his ferocious chi exploded and overwhelmed the 4 beasts. The innate ferocious armor and his infallible tormented physique complemented each other perfectly, allowing his combat strength to reach a terrifying level. Divine Ferocious Avatar, activate! Chu Kuangren yelled. The terrifying ferocious chi condensed into a black figure behind him. That figure was hundreds of meters tall and emanated endless battle intent and ferocious chi. Its battle cry reverberated and shook the heavens and earth. Break! Chu Kuangren unleashed a punch, and the divine ferocious avatar behind him followed suit and unleashed a punch as well. That punch landed directly on the Taotai bestial soul's gaping mouth, and a terrifying ferocious chi erupted. It entered the bestial soul's body and exploded. The dignified Taotia's origin soul had actually exploded. Again. Chu Kuangren laughed as his endless battle intent surged. He clenched his fists and smashed them onto Tao Wu's head like a sledgehammer. His terrifying strength exploded Tao Wu's head. Roar! The remaining Qiong Qi let out a furious roar and charged towards Chu Kuangren. It used its claws and mouth to grab the divine ferocious avatar. However, Chu Kuangren snorted and unleashed his ferocious qi, pushing his innate ferocious armor to its limit. With the help of the Emperor weapon, the divine ferocious avatar's power skyrocketed. Chu Kuangren grabbed one of the wild beasts with both hands. The Dharma idol fiercely used its strength and smashed the two ferocious beasts together. A violent evil qi crazily attacked the bodies of the two ferocious beasts. With a bang, the remaining two ferocious beasts completely exploded. A large amount of soul energy dispersed into the air. Others could not touch it, but Chu Kuangren could. He activated his universal cauldron physique and absorbed the soul energy into his body. The soul energy of these four bestial souls was a great supplement. Chu Kuangren sneered at the craggy ocean tower lord. Your four pets aren't that great. Why don't you find a few more? Upon hearing his words, the craggy ocean tower lord trembled in anger. The craggy ocean tower had spent a great deal of effort to refine these four bestial souls, but now, they had all been destroyed by Chu Kuangren. Chu Kuangren, I must kill you. The craggy ocean tower lord said coldly. Let's see who kills who. Chu Kuangren sneered. He then raised his arm and unleashed a punch that was filled with ferocious qi towards the craggy ocean tower lord. The power of this attack had already reached the level of a Saint King. The craggy ocean tower lord resisted with all his might, but he was still sent flying hundreds of meters away. Sage ruler Zhang Guang, stop watching the show. He has shown most of his trump cards. It's time to make a move, the craggy ocean tower lord shouted. He had even taken out his emperor weapon. What other trump cards could he have? Several figures flew out from the ferry boat. The Acheron Manor Lord, the Palace Master of Death, Daoist Yun Tao, Sage Ruler Zhang Guang, and the Great Bottomless Chasm Dweller appeared in the sky. 5 different surges of Daoist rhymes erupted. Some were sinister, some were cold, some were ethereal, some were majestic, and some were boundless. The 5 of them locked their gazes on Chu Kuangren with unparalleled killing intent. It was a sign of their determination to kill Chu Kuangren. Chu Kuangren, you should be honored that 6 sage rulers have teamed up just to kill you. Since the beginning of time, no one else has done this except you. Sage ruler Zhang Guang said indifferently. Huh, what a joke. You guys want to kill me? I should be honored. Let me ask you. Are you out of your mind? Chu Kuangren laughed out loud. Then, a golden trident appeared on his body. It was his second emperor weapon, the Empyrean Neptune's halberd. The innate ferocious armor and the Empyrean Neptune's halberd appeared in his hands. Boundless emperor's aura gushed out from Chu Kuangren's body. At that moment, it was as if he had transformed into an ancient emperor who controlled the world. The cultivators at the scene had the urge to kneel down and worship him. What a terrifying Chu Kuangren! If not for the 6 great Saint Kings taking action today, if there was only one Saint King, I'm afraid he would really not be a match for him. He's too powerful. I thought it would be a piece of cake for us to kill Chu Kuangren, but I didn't expect him to have such a trump card. 2 emperor weapons. What kind of opportunity of fortune is this? Countless cultivators were shocked. Even the sages felt their scalps tingle. The 6 sage rulers who were fighting Chu Kuangren also had a serious look on their faces. Everyone, don't let your guard down. I don't dare to be careless against this person. The 6 sage rulers said before they attacked. Sage ruler Zhang Guang knew that Chu Kuangren's strength was not to be underestimated since he had an emperor weapon. Hence, he immediately used the emperor technique that he had been studying for a long time. He threw out a punch that was filled with surging golden light. Finger of Despair. Eye of Acheron. The Death Palace Lord and the Acheron Manor Lord did not hold back either. Their attacks were also powerful Emperor techniques. When the three sage rulers activated the three Emperor techniques at the same time, their power was many times stronger than the Empyrean walkers. Chu Kuangren let out a long roar as he waved the Empyrean Neptune's halberd in his hand. Surges of torrential force surrounded his body, turning his surroundings into a boundless ocean. Terrifying Daoist rhymes surged out from the Empyrean Neptune's halberd in all directions. The three Emperor techniques and Emperor weapons collided. Oceanic Calming Pearl. The great bottomless chasm dweller saw Chu Kuangren activating his Emperor weapon. He then took out the Oceanic Calming Pearl. The moment the Oceanic Calming Pearl appeared, the torrential force around it froze for a moment. Although the Empyrean Neptune's halberd was so powerful that it quickly broke through the Oceanic Calming Pearl seal, it gave the other sage rulers an opportunity to attack. The power of the three Emperor techniques broke through the Emperor weapon's power and landed on Chu Kuangren's body, sending him flying. Chu Kuangren's figure was sent flying like a cannonball before he crashed into a few mountains not far away. The mountains exploded one after another, causing a huge cloud of dust to billow. However, Chu Kuangren dashed out from the cloud of dust with ferocious qi surging around his body. With the protection of the innate ferocious armor, he did not suffer too much damage. Even if he did, his immortal body could heal him quickly. The sage rulers could tell how powerful the innate ferocious armor was, and their expressions turned grim. Sage ruler Zhang Guang said, "If we want to kill him, we'll have to break through the innate ferocious armor's defense first." The other saint rulers rolled their eyes when they heard that. The Acheron Manor Lord said bluntly, "Aren't you talking nonsense? That's an Emperor weapon we're talking about. It's easier said than done to break through the defense of an Emperor weapon." Humph, Chu Kuangren is still below the level of a sage, so there's a limit to how much power he can unleash from an Emperor weapon. It's not like we don't have a chance. Moreover, using an Emperor weapon consumes a huge amount of spiritual power and mental strength. With his cultivation level, he won't be able to sustain it for long. We can still exhaust him to death. The craggy Ocean Tower Lord said. That's right. Although it's a little dishonorable, he has an Emperor weapon. That's the only thing we can do, Master Daoist Yun Tao said. Not far away, Chu Kuangren flew towards them and swung his halberd. The majestic torrential force blasted towards the great chasm dweller and sent him flying. The powerful force caused him to spit out a mouthful of blood. "Ha, you guys can't hurt me, but you won't be able to withstand the power of an Emperor weapon. How long can you guys hold on?" Chu Kuangren laughed and said. "That's true, but we don't have a limit, and you only have a limited time to use the Emperor weapon. How long can you hold on?" Sage ruler Zhang Guang retorted. Both sides could see each other's weaknesses. The battle was getting more intense. Chapter 421. The six sage rulers battled against Chu Kuangren. Violent energy waves continued to spread, and the entire void seemed to be on the verge of collapsing. This energy had turned the area within a 100-kilometer radius into a forbidden zone. Anyone who got close to it would most likely die. With two Emperor weapons in his possession, Chu Kuangren's strength was unparalleled. Every move he made had the power to shake the heavens and the earth. Even the six sage rulers did not dare to fight him head-on. Even the sage rulers could only barely block his attacks. The power of an Emperor weapon was too terrifying. Chu Kuangren stood in the void and suddenly exclaimed in surprise. He struck the void with his halberd and shattered an invisible energy attack. An invisible attack. The Ethereal Rapture's ethereal enigma realm is still as unpredictable as ever. Chu Kuangren chuckled. Not far away, Master Daoist Yun Tao stood in the air. His figure seemed a little ethereal, as if he could disappear at any time. That was the Ethereal Rapture's Emperor technique, the Ethereal Enigma realm. No matter how unpredictable it is, you've still managed to block it. Master Daoist Yun Tao said with a hint of surprise in his eyes. Even a sage ruler of the same realm would not be able to detect his Ethereal Enigma realm. However, Chu Kuangren had keenly sensed it and easily blocked his attack. Did his Ethereal Enigma realm lose its effect? At that thought, he hid in the void. When the other sage rulers joined forces to attack Chu Kuangren, he attacked a few more times. However, all of them were blocked by Chu Kuangren. Chu Kuangren could see through his attacks. What was going on? Master Daoist Yun Tao could not figure it out. His Ethereal Enigma realm had not been broken for so many years, yet it was defeated by Chu Kuangren again and again. How did he do it? No matter how hard he tried, he did not know that there was a kind of conjuring talent that could greatly enhance the senses of his spiritual thoughts and hence detect his Ethereal Enigma realm. Floating pool of death chi. In the air, the sacred Death Palace Lord suddenly yelled. A large amount of death chi gushed out from his body, and a large amount of Daoist rhymes enveloped the surroundings, forming a pool out of thin air. Standing in the pool, Chu Kuangren could feel a large amount of death chi surging towards him, trying to corrode his body. Humph, how laughable. Chu Kuangren let out a soft snort. Ferocious chi surged on the innate ferocious armor on his body, so the surrounding chi of death could not hurt him at all. Following that, a violent murderous aura burst forth, striking the surroundings. Countless death chi dispersed one after another, and the pool formed by the interweaving death Daoist rhymes exploded one after another before finally shattering. Tisk, as expected of an imperial armament. The Death Palace Master clicked his tongue in amazement. His eyes were burning with passion. After fighting for so long, no matter how powerful Chu Kuangren is, he should be on the verge of collapsing. How can he still wield his emperor weapon? The Acheron Manor Lord frowned and said. The other Saint Kings also sensed that something was wrong. Chu Kuangren had been using the two emperor weapons to battle them for quite some time now. Even if they were to personally wield the emperor weapons, they would not dare to say that they could last that long. Yet Chu Kuangren, who was not even a sage, had done it. Moreover, he was using two sovereign weapons at the same time. This was simply unbelievable. Heh, do you want to know how long I can last? Chu Kuangren sneered and waved the Empyrean Neptune's halberd in his hand. A massive amount of torrential force mixed with ferocious chi erupted like a torrent, blasting the 6 sage rulers back. It was true that Chu Kuangren could not wield the emperor weapons for too long. However, things were different now. After consuming the yin-yang soul pill, which strengthened his soul energy, the time he could wield the emperor weapons had greatly increased. We need to think of a way to trap him first. Sage ruler Zhang Guang said. He then took out 4 pale yellow stone tablets and tossed them into the air. In an instant, an incredibly domineering aura spread out. The 4 stone tablets were positioned at 4 corners to suppress the surrounding area, forming a mysterious formation that enveloped Chu Kuangren within it. Heavenly Golden Unifying Chi Formation. Sage ruler Zhang Guang yelled. Then, 4 great sages dashed out from behind him. Each of them stood in front of a stone tablet and channeled all of their spiritual energy into it, instantly increasing the formation's power. Under such pressure, even a sage ruler would find it hard to break free. Finger of Despair. Eye of Acheron. Gluttonous Palm. The other sage rulers took the opportunity to attack while Chu Kuangren was trapped. Finger energies, demonic rays, and palm energies landed on Chu Kuangren's body one after another, causing his innate ferocious armor to vibrate continuously. Although the emperor weapons were powerful and did not suffer any damage from the sage ruler's attacks, the huge recoil continued to impact Chu Kuangren's physical body, causing his bones and flesh to rupture. Hiss. That hurts a little. Chu Kuangren gasped in shock. However, under the powerful regenerative abilities of his immortal body, his broken bones and flesh began to heal at an extremely fast speed. Ever since he began cultivating, his immortal body had always been his most important asset. This time was no exception. Divine Ferocious Avatar. Chu Kuangren activated the Divine Ferocious Avatar, and with the help of his innate ferocious armor, his battle intent and ferocious chi crashed into the 4 stone tablets around him. Boom, boom, boom. A series of loud explosions reverberated throughout the area. The light on the 4 stone tablets gradually dimmed. The 4 great sages who were supporting the stone tablets spat out mouthfuls of blood as their faces turned pale. However, none of them let go and continued to channel their spiritual energy into the stone tablets. Very well. Let's see how long you guys can last. Chu Kuangren let out a long roar, and a blood-red flame suddenly appeared on his body. An even more terrifying aura erupted from his body. It's the 9 Deaths blazing blood art. D***MN. Once he activates the 9 Deaths blazing blood art, his spiritual energy will definitely increase tremendously. When that happens, he'll be able to unleash an even greater power than the Emperor weapons. The sage rulers' expressions turned grim. They continuously activated their Emperor techniques and attacked Chu Kuangren. 1 attack, 2 attacks, 3 attacks. If it were anyone else, even 10 sage rulers, they would have died after receiving such an attack. However, Chu Kuangren was unscathed. On the contrary, his aura continued to increase. D***MN. What's going on? Even if he has an Emperor weapon, this is still too much. The pupils of the few Saint Kings constricted, and they could not help but be shocked. Break! Chu Kuangren activated the 9 Deaths blazing blood art and his aura reached its peak. The divine ferocious avatar behind him continuously roared, and its ferocious chi crashed into the 4 stone tablets around him. Gradually, cracks began to appear on the surface of the stone tablets. The heavenly golden tablet can no longer suppress him. Sage ruler Zhang Guang exclaimed. The heavenly golden tablet was one of the treasures of the heavenly golden palace. Every single one of them was a top-notch sage ruler weapon, and when all 4 of them were placed together, the heavenly golden unifying chi formation was even more powerful. It could even suppress a sage ruler, but now, these 4 stone tablets could no longer withstand Chu Kuangren's strength. What did that mean? It meant that Chu Kuangren's combat strength had surpassed a sage ruler's. With a loud bang, the 4 heavenly golden tablets shattered. The terrifying impact sent the 4 great sages who were controlling the stone tablets flying. 3 of them were blasted into pieces on the spot, and the last one managed to survive because he had a defensive sage weapon on him. However, he was already on the brink of death. Gluttonous devouring technique. Chu Kuangren raised his hand and activated the gluttonous devouring technique. The flesh and blood essences of the sages around him were absorbed into his body, quickly replenishing his depleted spiritual energy. Chu Kuangren's body was covered in blood-colored flames, and he was clad in a pitch-black armor. With a halberd in his hand, he looked like a god of war who had just walked out of the Azura battlefield. What other techniques do you have? Show me. Chapter 422. What other techniques do you have? Show them to your heart's content. Chu Kuangren's battle intent soared like a godly king. He took a step forward, causing the void to tremble and the mountains to tremble. The 6 saint rulers before him were all stunned by his power, and their faces became rather sunken. Around them, the countless cultivators who came to encircle the Black Heaven sect could not help but feel terrified. What should we do? Even the sage rulers can't do anything to Chu Kuangren? Has the encirclement failed? Oh God, Grey Lord Sage, Sun Moon Sage, and the other sages looked terrible. If this operation failed, they would be doomed. More than half of the cultivators they brought with them had died in the astonishing cloud of seas formation. If they still could not destroy the Black Heaven sect, those cultivators would have died in vain. If you guys have no other techniques, then prepare to die. Chu Kuangren took a step forward and was about to attack. However, at that moment, he looked into the distance with a thought. A beam of light flew over. Wherever the beam of light passed, countless mountains were crushed by an incomparably terrifying force. A boundless and peerless pressure enveloped this part of the world. Apart from that ray of light, in another direction, the sound of howling waves came from the horizon. It was as if a tsunami was approaching. Two different terrifying auras came from two different directions. Similarly, it shocked the entire realm. Chu Kuangren, do you really think we have no other techniques left? Sage ruler Zhang Guang could not help but laugh when he sensed the two auras. The great bottomless chasm dweller smiled proudly. The forefather is here. Chu Kuangren, prepare to die. The expressions of the other saint kings were rather grave. TSK, the forefathers of the heavenly golden palace and the bottomless chasm are here. How extravagant. They've actually invited all of them. The golden ray of light and the sound of the tsunami had arrived. Both parties were hidden in a ball of golden light and a ball of blue light respectively. Greetings, forefather. Both sage ruler Zhang Guang and the great bottomless chasm dweller bowed. The other sage rulers dared not delay either. Greetings, forefather. The sage rulers who stood at the top of the sages were so respectful to the figures in the light. Everyone was shocked. What kind of beings were these two? That was what everyone was thinking. No need for formalities. An old but vigorous voice came from within the golden light. Then, the blurry figure in the golden light looked at the blue light and said with a faint smile, Daoist Haiyu, we haven't seen each other for almost 10,000 years, right? Yes, I didn't expect that after 10,000 years, it would be to deal with a little guy below the sage level. What a pity. The voice of a middle-aged man came from within the blue light. This is not an ordinary person below the saint plane. His talent can be said to be unprecedented, and he also has two sovereign weapons. Even a few saint kings cannot do anything to him, the person in the golden light said with a smile. So what if he's a monster? Now that both of us are here, do you think he'll be able to survive? The voice of the person in the blue light was filled with killing intent. The temperature of the world seemed to have dropped to a freezing point. That's true. The people in the golden and blue lights conversed casually. They did not pay much attention to Chu Kuangren, as if killing him was as easy as killing an ant. This kind of calmness made everyone feel that it was inconceivable. After all, even the 6 sage rulers could not do anything to Chu Kuangren. Yet these two people did not take him seriously at all. Chu Kuangren activated his eye of revelation and looked at the two rays of light. Oh, so it's two old boundary emperors. Chu Kuangren said. Apart from the sage rulers, the sages at the scene gasped when they heard the words boundary emperors. Boundary emperors. These two people were boundary emperors. There were boundary emperors in the firmament star. To be able to see through our origins, little guy, you're really not simple. The person in the golden light said in surprise. Alright, let's cut the chatter. Brother Chang Guang, hurry up and finish him off. Also, I want his Empyrean Neptune's halberd. Then the other emperor weapon belongs to me. Boundary Emperor Chang Guang's tone was a little emotional. Obviously, an emperor weapon was also very tempting to a boundary emperor. What a shame, little guy. If you were given a few more years, you might be able to reach the same height as us. However, it's your fault for being so arrogant. Now, it's better for you to die, Boundary Emperor Chang Guang said. As soon as he said that, the surrounding spiritual qi surged, and a palm qi shot out from the golden light. It was wrapped in an extremely powerful Daoist rhyme. Just that palm strike alone was far more powerful than a sage ruler's. A surge of qi locked onto Chu Kuangren, making it impossible for him to dodge or retreat. He could only let out a low growl and face the attack head-on. He swung the Empyrean Neptune's halberd in his hand, and the surging force of water that seemed to contain the power of the entire ocean smashed onto the palm chi. Amidst the explosion, Chu Kuangren was blasted away. The violent force of the impact cracked the bones in his arm, and the Empyrean Neptune's halberd almost flew out of his hand. Even with the innate ferocious armor, he still suffered quite a bit of damage. A Boundary Emperor's attack was not to be underestimated. The moment Chu Kuangren was heavily injured, his immortal body was already activated. His arms and body quickly returned to their original state. Huh? An immortal ability? Boundary Emperor Chang Kuang could not help but exclaim in surprise when he noticed the abnormality in Chu Kuangren's body. There's no such thing as an immortal body in this world. Boundary Emperor Hai Yi said. Then, he too made his move. The surrounding Daoist rhymes manifested, and countless streams of water converged to form a water ball around Chu Kuangren, enveloping him within it. The torrential force crushed every corner of his body. In the blink of an eye, Chu Kuangren's body was almost crushed into a pile of meat paste. The intense pain made him look rather ferocious. This feels so King good. He roared and channeled the power of the Empyrean Neptune's halberd to its limit. Only then did he manage to break the water ball. This body of his is a little strange. Boundary Emperor Hai Yi was also shocked. Then, the two Boundary Emperors took turns to attack Chu Kuangren, causing his body to be continuously damaged. However, Chu Kuangren was able to recover from fatal injuries in a very short period of time. Is this guy really immortal? That made the two Boundary Emperors' scalps tingle. The sages at the scene were even more dumbfounded. So, this is his true trump card? A body that even a Boundary Emperor can't kill, an immortal body? Sage ruler Zhang Guang gulped. There's something strange about this guy. Let me capture him and study him. Boundary Emperor Hai Yi said. I'm quite interested too. Boundary Emperor Chang Kuang laughed. With such an immortal body, if they could study it, the rewards would be no less than an emperor's opportunity of fortune. After all, who did not want to be immortal? How about this, we'll each take half. Boundary Emperor Hai Yi said after a moment of silence. Each of us takes half of his body? We'll do as you say. I wonder if he can still be revived. Just as the two Boundary Emperors were about to split Chu Kuangren apart, they saw him standing on the same spot with bloodstains all over his body. However, he had a smile on his face as he looked up into the sky. Chapter 423. Chu Kuangren did not stand a chance against a Boundary Emperor. It did not matter even if he had two Emperor weapons. No matter how strong his foundation was, he was still below the level of a sage. There was a limit to the power of the Emperor weapons that he could wield. He was no match for a Boundary Emperor. However, even in the face of such a hopeless situation, he was still laughing. Every cultivator present, including the Boundary Emperors, was confused. Could it be that this fellow has gone mad from the torture? In front of a quasi-emperor, he has no way of fighting back. Even if he has that strange undying ability, what can he do? A Boundary Emperor can trap him and suppress him with a wave of his hand. Why is this guy laughing? Everyone was confused. Even the sage rulers were confused. What are you laughing about, kid? Boundary Emperor Chang Kuang sounded a little angry. To him, Chu Kuangren's laughter was a provocation to them. As Boundary Emperors, it was already a humiliation for them to fight someone below the level of a sage. However, they could not kill Chu Kuangren, and he was still laughing. That was like a slap to their faces. Heh, I'm laughing at the fact that you lot have mobilized so many Boundary Emperors just to deal with me, yet you still can't kill me. I'm laughing at the fact that you guys don't even know that you're on the brink of death. His last sentence made everyone's expression change. On the brink of death? What did he mean? Sage ruler Zhang, the craggy ocean tower lord, and the others quickly looked around. However, apart from the clouds, they saw nothing. Chu Kuangren, you don't have to be so mysterious anymore. That's right. With a boundary emperor here, it doesn't matter what trump card you have. A boundary emperor's techniques are not something you can handle. A few sage rulers yelled. However, when Chu Kuangren heard that, the smile on his face widened. He laughed and said, "A boundary emperor. Even a boundary emperor has to die. How dare you?" Boundary Emperor Chang Kuang unleashed a palm attack. Chu Kuangren's body was instantly shattered, but it quickly healed. He stood on the spot with the Empyrean Neptune's halberd in his hand. His aura was not weak at all, and he glared at everyone present. Inexplicably, a chill ran down everyone's spine. Are all of you guessing what my trump card is? Is it my Emperor techniques, or is it this astonishing cloud of seas formation? Is it the two Emperor weapons in my hands, or is it my immortal body? Wrong, all wrong. Every time Chu Kuangren mentioned a technique, the chill in the hearts of the crowd grew even colder. An inexplicable murderous intent filled the air. Any one of the techniques that Chu Kuangren possessed was a trump card that would make even a sage's scalp tingle. Monarch techniques, formations, monarch weapons. This caused everyone, including the Holy King, to suffer greatly. However, Chu Kuangren was now telling them that these were not his true trump cards. He had yet to reveal them. This made everyone feel incredulous. With the Empyrean Neptune's halberd in hand, Chu Kuangren's battle-intent soared as he pointed the halberd towards the sky and laughed. "My true trump card is in the sky." As soon as he finished speaking, the might on his body reached its peak, and it shot into the sky. The sea of clouds that covered the sky actually dispersed. A colorful light appeared in the sky. Following that, an extremely terrifying pressure of the heavenly Tao suddenly descended and enveloped every cultivator present, including quasi-emperors. The stronger one's cultivation base was, the more horrifying the pressure they felt. They looked up into the sky with a look of disbelief on their faces. Colorful clouds gathered in the sky, forming a terrifying vortex of colorful clouds above their heads that covered a 1,000-kilometer radius. The horrifying aura filled the air. That was, the heavenly Tao's aura. It was, the heavenly tribulation. Heavenly tribulation, this is the heavenly tribulation. What a terrifying heavenly tribulation. Is this Chu Kuangren's heavenly tribulation? When did this heavenly tribulation appear? Why didn't we notice it before? Everyone was panicking. Judging from the heavenly tribulation's aura and the strange colorful clouds, this was no ordinary heavenly tribulation. This was Chu Kuangren's heavenly tribulation. The tribulation clouds that covered a 1,000-kilometer radius were colorful. They had never heard of such a thing before. What the hell was going on with a heavenly tribulation like this? The 9-colored heavenly tribulation. This is the 9-colored heavenly tribulation. Compared to the other cultivators, great sage ruler Zhang, who came from the unknown lands and had read many records about emperors, knew more. D***, how can it be the 9-colored heavenly tribulation? Legend has it that this kind of heavenly tribulation only appeared once or twice in ancient times. How can Chu Kuangren attract such a heavenly tribulation? The great chasm dweller exclaimed in fear. The heavenly tribulation was a test for cultivators. The more outstanding a cultivator was, the more powerful the heavenly tribulation would be. Since ancient times, the 9-colored heavenly tribulation was the highest known heavenly tribulation to become a sage. Those who could survive this tribulation were the most terrifying demonic cultivators in the history of Firmament Star. Once they survived, it was almost certain that they would become emperors. It's not just the 9-colored heavenly tribulation. This heavenly tribulation covers an area of a 1,000-kilometer radius. What kind of heavenly power is this? D***, the heavenly tribulation's aura has locked onto us. Since when did we become the heavenly tribulation's target? All the sages and sage rulers were terrified. It's this huge formation. Boundary Emperor Chang Kuang looked around at the gradually dispersing sea of clouds and said, "It's this huge formation that's concealing the heavenly tribulation's aura." By the time this guy revealed his heavenly tribulation, the heavenly tribulation had already recognized us as one of the ascendant cultivators due to our battle with him. In other words, this heavenly tribulation had appeared a long time ago, and everyone who attacked Chu Kuangren was part of the ascendant cultivator. At this point, even Boundary Emperor Chang Kuang's voice could not help but tremble, let alone the others who heard him. Everyone who attacked Chu Kuangren was part of the ascendant cultivator? Gulp, sage ruler Chang Kuang and the others gulped. They looked around with more and more horrified expressions on their faces. How many people were there? Hundreds of thousands of cultivators. Chu Kuangren had dragged hundreds of thousands of cultivators to accompany him in ascension. No wonder. No wonder the heavenly tribulation's area is so wide. He had planned this from the start. He used the huge formation to conceal the heavenly power, then he fought with us and dragged everyone into the ascendant cultivator list. Lunatic. This lunatic. Can he withstand the heavenly tribulation of hundreds of thousands of cultivators? B*****. He's going to perish together with us. All the cultivators were shocked by Chu Kuangren's crazy move. The more people who participated in the heavenly tribulation, the more powerful it would be. Therefore, since ancient times, the ascendant cultivators had to face the heavenly tribulation alone. They could not allow others to intervene, for fear that the heavenly tribulation would be too powerful. However, Chu Kuangren was different. He wanted to ascend, and he wanted to drag hundreds of thousands of cultivators along with him. There was only one person in history who would do such a thing. All the cultivators stared at Chu Kuangren with hatred, shock, and indescribable fear in their eyes. Under everyone's gaze, Chu Kuangren, who had planned this unprecedented heavenly tribulation, laughed out loud. "I don't care if you're a sage ruler or a boundary emperor, I'll make sure that all of you who invade my Black Heaven sect today, never leave this place alive. Come on, everyone. Enjoy this heavenly tribulation feast." Chapter 424. Everyone, let's enjoy this heavenly tribulation feast. Chu Kuangren laughed, and a loud explosion could be heard in the sky. The tribulation lightning was already gathering. The terrifying tribulation lightning energy was gathering in the colorful vortex. It was colorful as it slithered around like a python. Once the tribulation lightning energy had reached a certain level, countless lightning bolts started to wander in the void, gradually spreading to thousands of kilometers. Everyone trembled as they looked at the tribulation lightning. Quick, think of something. Quick, how can we stop the tribulation lightning? If this goes on, we're all going to die here. The tribulation lightning's power was too terrifying. Just its domineering aura alone was enough to make the sages feel numb. Moreover, the further it went, the more terrifying its power would be. Kill Chu Kuangren. Chu Kuangren is the one who attracted this heavenly tribulation, and we're just collateral damage. As long as we kill him, the heavenly tribulation will naturally disappear. Sage ruler Zhang Guang said loudly. At that moment, everyone looked at Chu Kuangren with murderous intent. Chu Kuangren beckoned them with his finger. Come. Today, only one side would survive. Either Chu Kuangren would die, or the 100,000-strong army would perish here. Kill. Kill Chu Kuangren. The 100,000-strong army went crazy under the threat of death. They had even subconsciously forgotten that even the two boundary emperors could not kill Chu Kuangren. How could they possibly kill him? The army charged forward, and all kinds of energy blasted towards Chu Kuangren. Chu Kuangren stood proudly and gathered his divine ferocious avatar. The avatar blocked all the attacks with its body. At that moment, a colorful ray of light suddenly descended from the sky. That ray of light contained countless mysterious Daoist rhymes, and it turned into a circular light screen that covered thousands of kilometers. That was the light of heavenly tribulation. The heavenly tribulation was about to begin. Acheron Manor Lord, can your 9 profound heavenly fire barrier stop this heavenly tribulation? The Death Palace Lord asked. Everyone remembered that the Acheron Manor Lord had once cast a 9 profound heavenly fire barrier in the Black Heaven sect. It had a wide range, and it was a boundary emperor weapon too. At that moment, everyone looked at the Acheron Manor Lord with hope. Stop dreaming. The 9 profound heavenly fire barrier can only trap, not defend. It can't stop this heavenly tribulation at all. The Netherworld Manor Lord's words mercilessly shattered everyone's hope. Boom! Countless loud noises resounded like firecrackers. Bolts of lightning fell like a torrential rain. Hundreds of thousands of tribulation lightning bolts fell. How magnificent was that scene! Even the astonishing cloud of seas formation could not completely isolate such a terrifying commotion. Almost every powerhouse in the firmament star could sense it. They looked towards the direction of the Black Heaven sect with their mouths agape. It was especially so for the spectators who were closest to the Black Heaven sect. When they saw the colorful tribulation clouds in the sky and the hundreds of thousands of colorful lightning bolts, they felt as if the world had been dyed into a colorful cloth. The rumbling thunder continued to resound, causing people to cover their ears. Boom! A Battle King warrior was struck by the tribulation lightning, and before he could even let out a scream, he was turned into ashes. Becoming a saint was perhaps his lifelong dream. Perhaps, if he worked hard, he might really be able to touch the threshold of becoming a saint in this era of the emergence of the Great Path and pass the tribulation by himself. But now, he was still just a battle monarch. He could enjoy the privilege of passing the tribulation in advance. However, as a mere battle monarch, he could not endure it at all. It wasn't just the nameless battle monarch. Many other cultivators were also enjoying the treatment that only those who had become saints could enjoy. Unfortunately, not many of them were able to enjoy it. It was just the first wave of tribulation lightning, but 90% of the cultivators were killed. Within 1,000 miles of the Black Heaven sect, countless craters were formed from the tribulation lightning, and a large number of tiny lightning arcs danced. Meanwhile, the spectating cultivators who were thousands of miles away gulped. They felt their bodies stiffen and their scalps go numb as they witnessed this scene. This was the power of the heavens. The true power of the heavens. At the edge of the astonishing cloud of seas formation, a gigantic ferry boat was floating in the air, and it was protected by an invisible barrier. This was the elusive mirage. On top of the elusive mirage were the Black Heaven sect cultivators. They looked in the direction of the rainbow-colored tribulation clouds with indescribable shock and deep worry in their eyes. So, this is the trump card that the sect leader was talking about. Elder Ruyan murmured. All this while, she had thought that Chu Kuangren was talking about the astonishing cloud of seas formation. In fact, the astonishing cloud of seas formation had indeed unleashed an extremely powerful force that destroyed the coalition army. However, even such a formation was not Chu Kuangren's trump card. His trump card was the heavenly Tao. It was the heavenly tribulation. Pulling hundreds of thousands of cultivators to pass the tribulation is something that has never happened before. The sect leader is too crazy. The Black Heaven's second and third forefathers were also scared to death by Chu Kuangren. Brother Chu has done many crazy things before, hasn't he? Immemorial Sage smiled bitterly. Can the sect leader withstand such a heavenly tribulation? Nangong Huang and the other disciples asked worriedly. Yes. Master can definitely do it. Lan Yu said with determination. That's right. All these years, he has created so many miracles that others thought were impossible. This time will be no exception. Gu Linglong took a deep breath and said as she looked into the distance. Everyone had no choice but to believe in Chu Kuangren. At the nine-colored heavenly tribulation. When the first wave of heavenly tribulation struck, 99% of the 100,000 cultivators were killed. Only a few sages and top-tier honorables remained. Meanwhile, Chu Kuangren was facing his first tribulation lightning. Compared to the others, he was the main target of the nine-colored heavenly tribulation. Hence, his tribulation lightning was far stronger than the others. When the tribulation lightning struck, its power was enough to kill a sage. However, to Chu Kuangren, it was still insignificant. He raised his arm and struck out with his halberd. The tribulation lightning shattered, and the scattered lightning energy spread. Chu Kuangren seemed to have sensed something, and his expression changed slightly. This tribulation lightning caused his universal cauldron physique to react? Was this tribulation lightning also a type of strange energy? Chu Kuangren pondered. However, the second wave of tribulation lightning was about to arrive. Compared to the first, the second wave of tribulation lightning was much stronger. Boom! When the tribulation lightning struck, more than half of the remaining honorable supremes died. Only the sages could withstand it, and this was only the second wave of tribulation lightning. After all, there were 9 heavenly tribulations. Each wave was stronger than the one before. Chu Kuangren's second wave of tribulation lightning was also more terrifying than the others. If the second wave of tribulation lightning from others was only comparable to a sage's attack, Chu Kuangren's tribulation lightning was enough to kill most sages. To prove his theory, he did not destroy the tribulation lightning. Instead, he weakened the innate ferocious armor's power and used his body to block it. A portion of the tribulation lightning instantly surged into his limbs and bones. The universal cauldron physique activated. The tribulation lightning was converted into pure energy and stored within the universal cauldron physique. Chu Kuangren was delighted. This is really an unexpected harvest. Chu Kuangren grinned. At that moment, a majestic palm energy struck towards him. It was Boundary Emperor Chang Kuang. Chapter 425. The Boundary Emperor blasted Chu Kuangren away with a palm attack. After flying for hundreds of meters, Chu Kuangren steadied himself and smiled. Instead of dealing with me, you should think about how to deal with the heavenly tribulation first. The third wave of heavenly tribulation is coming soon. His words caused the light around the 2 quasi-emperors to flicker uncertainly. Although they could not see their expressions clearly, it was obvious that they were not feeling good. The Boundary Emperors were defeated by Chu Kuangren. No matter who it was, they would not feel good about it. This guy has that strange immortal ability, so it won't be easy to kill him. The tribulation lightning that he has to withstand is much stronger than ours. Let's think of a way to block it first. As for him, let the tribulation lightning kill him. I don't believe he can handle this kind of heavenly tribulation. Boundary Emperor Hai Yi snorted. That's good. We're Boundary Emperors, and we're much stronger than him. Even if he has an Emperor weapon, he won't be able to block this heavenly tribulation. Boundary Emperor Chang Kuang said. However, the other sages were shocked. Indeed. The Boundary Emperors were confident that they could block the heavenly tribulation before Chu Kuangren was killed, but they had no confidence at all. This was especially true for the ordinary sages. As for escaping, the heavenly tribulation had already locked onto them. There was no way out. Boundary Emperor, please save us. As long as the Quasi-Emperor can save us, we will definitely be at your beck and call in the future. We will spare no effort until our deaths. Please help us, Boundary Emperor. The sages did not care about their dignity and quickly asked for help. Stand behind us. Boundary Emperor Chang Kuang said after a moment of silence. The crowd was delighted and gathered behind the 2 Boundary Emperors. Boom! The third wave of tribulation lightning struck. Boundary Emperor Chongquang raised his hand and formed a light barrier. The tribulation lightning landed on it, creating ripples. When the tribulation lightning dissipated, the sages were unscathed with the help of the boundary emperors. As expected of a boundary emperor. How powerful! With the boundary emperors, we have nothing to worry about. Humph, now we just have to wait and see how Chu Kuangren dies. The sages breathed a sigh of relief. They then looked at Chu Kuangren with resentment. However, Chu Kuangren remained calm and did not care at all. When the third tribulation lightning struck, he continued to withstand it with his body. Heaven and earth furnace physique activated. A large amount of tribulation lightning was converted into pure energy and stored in his body. However, to the others, it was a messy scene of Chu Kuangren being blasted away by the third tribulation lightning and spitting out a mouthful of blood. Seeing this, everyone couldn't help but gloat. Retribution, this is retribution. Chu Kuangren, you've done so much injustice that even the heavenly Tao can't stand by and watch any longer. Such a terrifying heavenly tribulation has descended to take your life. Not bad. Boom boom, the fourth wave of tribulation lightning, the fifth wave, the tribulation lightning was getting stronger and stronger. By the time the sixth wave of tribulation lightning arrived, even Quasi-Emperor Chongguang felt that it was a little troublesome. Its power had already reached the limit of a holy king. Furthermore, there were still more than 100 people present. In other words, he had to block more than 100 tribulation lightning bolts that contained the power of a saint king. Fellow Daoist Haiyu, let's attack together. Alright. The two great boundary emperors joined forces and two majestic Daoist rhymes instantly erupted, turning into two barriers that blocked the hundreds of tribulation lightning bolts. The tribulation lightning struck the barrier, causing loud rumbling sounds to ring out. The power that escaped from it caused the surrounding mountains to be continuously destroyed. It was like the end of the world, causing everyone's hearts to palpitate. The hundreds of tribulation lightning bolts dissipated. Meanwhile, Boundary Emperor Chongguang and Boundary Emperor Haiyi had also dispersed the spiritual light that shrouded their bodies, revealing their true appearances. Boundary Emperor Chongguang was an old man in a light yellow robe, while Boundary Emperor Haiyi was a middle-aged man with a single horn on his head. Both of them looked at the tribulation clouds with a solemn expression. They could feel that the heavenly tribulation's aura was getting more and more terrifying. If this goes on, we won't be able to protect these sages during the seventh wave of tribulation lightning, Boundary Emperor Chongguang said solemnly. Chu Kuangren must die under this tribulation lightning. Everyone looked at Chu Kuangren anxiously. If Chu Kuangren did not die, they would definitely die in the next wave of tribulation lightning. Without the help of a boundary emperor, they could not withstand it. At that moment, Chu Kuangren looked a little disheveled. His hair was disheveled, and he was covered in blood. However, upon closer inspection, his eyes were extraordinarily spirited. Not only was he not afraid when he looked at the tribulation clouds, but he was also looking forward to it. After several waves of tribulation lightning, he had accumulated a large amount of energy. Now, he had a 70% chance of forming the Supreme Sage Foundation level. However, he still wanted more. Rumble, the sixth wave of tribulation lightning was brewing. It was a colorful giant python that was condensed from endless lightning energy. With a roar, it charged towards Chu Kuangren. Die, die now. Chu Kuangren, hurry up and die. Everyone stared at the colorful giant python and cursed Chu Kuangren. Boom! With a loud bang, Chu Kuangren was smashed by the giant python, and the violent energy formed a deep pit on the ground. Chu Kuangren was smashed by the giant python and sank thousands of meters into the ground. Terrifying tribulation lightning energy exploded underground, causing the surrounding tens of thousands of li, or even the entire Dao province, to tremble. It was a shocking scene. Did it work? Is Chu Kuangren dead? Even with the Emperor weapon's protection, his body will be instantly shattered by the recoil force. Coupled with the lightning's corrosion, I'm afraid he'll be reduced to ashes. He must be dead. The sages looked at each other with a hint of joy in their eyes. However, a loud bang suddenly came from the sky. This sound directly shattered the hopes of all the sages, causing them to sink into an even deeper despair. That loud bang meant that the seventh wave of tribulation lightning was coming. Chu Kuangren was not dead yet. Why? Why isn't Chu Kuangren dead yet? D***, I don't want to die. Boundary Emperor, please think of something. Boundary Emperor Chang Kuang and the great sage looked at the colorful lightning pythons in the sky with a solemn look on their faces. Each of those colorful lightning pythons was equivalent to a Boundary Emperor's attack. Good luck to all of you. Boundary Emperor Chang Kuang said coldly. As soon as he said that, everyone's face turned ashen. I don't want to die. I don't want to die. One of the great sages could no longer withstand the pressure. He frantically tried to escape from the tribulation cloud's area of effect. However, he soon ran into a colorful barrier. That was the light of heavenly tribulation. It was a barrier that prevented ascension cultivators from escaping. Since ancient times, no one had ever been able to break through this barrier. Even the great sage's crazy attacks were futile. The seventh wave of tribulation lightning bolted down. Colorful lightning serpents slithered around and tore at each and every one of them. One by one, the sages were easily turned into ashes by this power. Boundary Emperor Chang Kuang and Boundary Emperor Hai Yu attacked at the same time, blocking the two colorful lightning pythons that were coming at them. Sage ruler Zhang Guang and the others also used their trump cards to fight against the colorful lightning pythons. When the seventh wave of tribulation lightning dissipated, only the two boundary emperors, sage ruler Zhang Guang, master Daoist Yun Tao, the Acheron Manor Lord, the Palace Lord of Death, and the Great Chasm Dweller were left alive. As for the craggy Ocean Tower Lord, his trump card was not strong enough, so he was killed by the colorful lightning pythons. On the firmament star, all the powerhouses who had witnessed this scene were speechless. There was an indescribable shock in their hearts. Chapter 426. The nine-colored heavenly tribulation was too terrifying. It was a sage heavenly tribulation, yet it could easily kill a sage ruler. No one in this era had ever seen a heavenly tribulation like this before. Such power shocked them to their core. Boom! A figure dashed out from the crater. It was Chu Kuangren. He stood in the air, ready to welcome his seventh tribulation lightning. He glanced at Boundary Emperor Chang Kuang and the others and chuckled. Oh, it's only you guys left. You guys aren't very useful. Chu Kuangren. Sage ruler Zhang Guang and the others gritted their teeth and glared at him. However, it was useless. If looks could kill, Chu Kuangren would have died a few times over. A deafening rumble echoed in the air. Chu Kuangren's seventh tribulation lightning had formed. It was a power that could shake half of the firmament star. Two claws reached out from the giant colorful vortex, followed by the head, neck, and body. It was a thunder dragon. A colorful thunder dragon. Just the Daoist rhyme that emanated from its body was enough to make the remaining sage rulers tremble in fear. Roar! The thunder dragon let out an angry roar. Its roar was enough to destroy 1,000 mountains. Endless lightning energy spread out, and half of the sky seemed to be torn apart. Oh my God, this is only the seventh tribulation lightning. There's still the eighth and ninth tribulation lightning. It seems like this is a bit too much. Chu Kuangren rubbed his chin and muttered. No matter how demonic he was, he should not have summoned a heavenly tribulation of this level. However, he had dragged hundreds of thousands of people into the heavenly tribulation, and that had increased his heavenly tribulation to an unimaginable level. With an angry roar, the terrifying thunder dragon swooped down. Its aura almost crushed the heavens and earth. Every cultivator who witnessed this scene could not help but tremble in fear. Come on. Chu Kuangren stood proudly and activated the gluttonous devouring technique. The blood and flesh essences of the dead cultivators were absorbed into his body and converted into spiritual power. Then, he activated the 9 deaths blazing blood art. His spiritual power was not used to strengthen the innate ferocious armor's defense, but to activate the universal cauldron physique. Boom! The Thunder Dragon and Chu Kuangren collided. At that moment, a terrifying suction force erupted from Chu Kuangren's body, sucking in all the energy within the Thunder Dragon into his body. It was as if Chu Kuangren had transformed into a gigantic furnace, using his spiritual power as fuel to smelt that terrifying Thunder Dragon. The lightning energy that was as boundless as the sea was completely absorbed. This scene caused everyone to be dumbfounded. They did not know exactly what had happened. However, they saw Chu Kuangren block the tribulation lightning. The faces of sage ruler Zhang Guang and the others were filled with despair. Just as Chu Kuangren blocked the 7th tribulation lightning, sage ruler Zhang Guang and the others faced the 8th tribulation lightning. Similarly, it was a terrifying rainbow-colored lightning dragon. A total of 7 lightning dragons spiraled in the sky, dyeing the horizon colorful. A terrifying might filled the air, shaking the heavens and earth. The faces of the 2 quasi-emperors were exceptionally ugly. Roar, roar, with 7 consecutive roars, 7 dragons swooped down at the same time. Sage ruler Zhang Guang, the Acheron Manor Lord, and the others gave their all, but they still could not block the attack. The moment they came into contact with the dragons, they were turned into ashes. The 2 quasi-emperors also gave their all. They each took out their respective boundary emperor weapons and clashed with the rainbow-colored lightning dragon. This was a battle between 2 quasi-emperors. It was a rare sight in the firmament star, so everyone had their eyes glued to the scene. The Daoist rhymes of the boundary emperors erupted and formed an earth-shattering palm energy. A surging torrent of water blasted towards the lightning dragon. With a loud explosion, streaks of white patterns appeared in the void. It was a sign that the void was about to be torn apart. Finally, the lightning dragon dissipated. The 2 boundary emperors were sent flying and landed on the ground with their faces ashen. Their faces were as pale as a sheet, and their auras were weak. Even the boundary emperors were injured by that tribulation lightning. However, it was not over yet. The tribulation clouds in the sky had yet to dissipate. On the contrary, more and more terrifying energy was gathering. Half of the living beings in the firmament star could feel its domineering aura. The stronger the cultivator, the more they shuddered. Chu Kuangren looked at the giant rainbow-colored whirlpool in the sky with a serious look in his eyes. His 8th tribulation lightning was coming. Within the rainbow-colored whirlpool, a large amount of lightning gathered and formed a giant rainbow-colored thunderball with a diameter of hundreds of meters. The thunderball slowly descended, and its domineering aura locked onto Chu Kuangren. Wherever it went, white cracks would appear in the void. The 2 boundary emperors' pupils dilated when they saw it. They could not block it. If they were in Chu Kuangren's shoes, they would not be able to block that thunderball. Chu Kuangren, he must die this time. If he doesn't die, then his 8th tribulation lightning will be our 9th tribulation lightning. When that time comes, both of us will die. Boundary Emperor Chang Kuang and Boundary Emperor Hai Yi looked at each other. Then, both of them attacked at the same time. Despite their injuries, they channeled their spiritual energies and unleashed their emperor techniques at Chu Kuangren. Heavenly Golden Heavenly Palm. With a palm attack, the heavenly golden chi rumbled and turned into a palm chi that descended from the sky. It was 1 step faster than the tribulation lightning and was aimed at Chu Kuangren. Heavenly Heavy Water. Boundary Emperor Hai Ye's Daoist rhyme manifested and formed a black torrential force around Chu Kuangren. It then turned into a water rope that bound him tightly. Humph! Chu Kuangren snorted. Although he was no match for the two boundary emperors. However, he was not going to sit and wait for his death. The sea of clouds within a 10-kilometer radius suddenly rumbled, and a ferocious cloud dragon emerged. It was the strongest formation spirit of the astonishing Sea of Clouds formation. This formation spirit had been destroyed by a sage ruler once before, but as long as the astonishing Sea of Clouds formation was not destroyed, this formation spirit would never die. However, Chu Kuangren had previously used the formation to conceal the heavenly tribulation's aura, so he could not divert his attention to summon this cloud dragon again. However, there was no need for him to conceal it now. With a thought, the astonishing Sea of Clouds formation quickly activated, and the cloud dragon soared into the sky and collided with the palm seal. Chu Kuangren channeled the formation with all his might. This cloud dragon was much more powerful than before, and it was no weaker than a boundary emperor's attack. With a loud explosion, the palm attack was shattered. However, the cloud dragon's power did not dissipate, and it continued to charge towards the two boundary emperors. I can't believe this guy can summon a formation like this. The two boundary emperors' expressions changed slightly. If they were at their peak, they would not have felt any pressure facing this cloud dragon. However, they were now exhausted, and they had just used their emperor techniques to attack Chu Kuangren. Hence, they only had 10 to 20% of their original strength left. He was actually forced back by the remnant power of the cloud dragon. Chu Kuangren did not pursue them either. He looked at the descending thunderball and unleashed the full power of his innate ferocious armor, and the divine ferocious avatar was formed. The power of this thunderball was too terrifying. He had to find a way to disintegrate a part of it, or else the universal cauldron physique would not be able to convert it. Boom, 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 the divine ferocious avatar kept swinging its fists. One punch after another, it was like a torrential storm. Countless fist energies landed on the thunderball, causing ripples to erupt. However, no matter how strong these fist energies were, they could not disintegrate much of the thunder energy. In the end, most of the thunderball landed. Chu Kuangren's divine ferocious avatar collided with the thunderball, and in less than a breath's time, the avatar was shattered. Chapter 427. When the lightning sphere enveloped Chu Kuangren, the powerful lightning energy was already madly attacking the innate ferocious armor. Although the Emperor weapon was extremely powerful, a large amount of lightning energy was still transmitted to Chu Kuangren's body through the weapon. At that moment, his body was torn apart. At that moment, Chu Kuangren activated the universal cauldron physique to its limit. A large amount of lightning energy was converted, but there was still a portion that could not be converted in time, and it continued to destroy Chu Kuangren's body. The immortal body was activated. His broken body quickly healed. With the help of his two godly physiques, Chu Kuangren was able to survive the 8th tribulation lightning strike while recovering and absorbing the energy at the same time. Only one left. Chu Kuangren grinned. His ascension into a sage could be said to be the most powerful heavenly tribulation in history. However, there was still one more tribulation lightning, and he would be able to survive it. By then, with his accumulated foundation, he could instantly ascend into a sage. He could even form the supreme sage foundation level in one go. Boom! Two giant lightning spheres once again formed in the sky. It was the 9th tribulation lightning from the two boundary emperors. Farewell, both of you. Chu Kuangren looked at the two boundary emperors and smiled. The lightning spheres descended. The two exhausted boundary emperors could not withstand such a terrifying power. Even if they tried their best, they would only be turned into ashes. Following the fall of the boundary emperors, every strong cultivator in the firmament star felt their eyelids twitch. That was a boundary emperor, and he was gone just like that. This Chu Kuangren was too terrifying. With the fall of the boundary emperors, Chu Kuangren was the only one left. A colorful beam of light shot out from the colorful tribulation cloud vortex and enveloped Chu Kuangren within it. Then, an endless amount of lightning energy poured down from the sky and crashed onto Chu Kuangren's body like a raging torrent. That was the 9th tribulation lightning. Chu Kuangren felt an extremely terrifying pressure. The ground beneath his feet instantly caved in, forming a 10,000-foot crater. Not only that, but with the beam of light as the epicenter, cracks began to appear on the ground within a 10,000-kilometer radius. Come on! Chu Kuangren let out a low growl and activated his innate ferocious armor to its limit to defend against the lightning energy. As for those that he could not defend against, he used his universal cauldron physique to continuously absorb them. If he could not absorb them all, he would use his immortal body to recover the damaged parts of his body. Just like that, he fought against the last tribulation lightning. This tribulation lightning lasted far longer than any of the previous ones. Even after 20 breaths of time had passed, it still hadn't dissipated. The tribulation lightning's energy seemed to be endless as it continued to fall from the sky. It was as if he would not rest until he killed Chu Kuangren. All the powerhouses on Firmament Star were watching. Today, they had witnessed one after another miracles that were impossible to happen in Chu Kuangren's hands. Now, they wanted to see if he could survive this unprecedented heavenly tribulation and become the first person in history. Within the light pillar, Chu Kuangren was enduring the terrifying tribulation lightning energy. His worldly cauldron physique had already reached its limit, but there was still nearly a third of the tribulation lightning energy that could not be converted. It was crazily destroying his body. Even Quasi-Emperor Changguang and Quasi-Emperor Hai Yu would not be able to withstand it. Chu Kuangren relied on his immortal body to stubbornly resist. However, he could clearly feel that the recovery speed of his immortal body could no longer keep up with the speed at which it was being destroyed. His flesh and blood were constantly being eroded. Instead of turning into chunks of flesh, they were gradually turning into fine ashes. If his whole body were to be blasted into ashes, with his third realm immortal body, he would probably die for sure. Under such a life-threatening situation, not only did Chu Kuangren not feel the slightest fear, he even felt an inexplicable excitement. Is this the thrill of fighting with your life on the line? This is so exciting. Crack! Chu Kuangren's knees suddenly cracked, and his legs could not help but bend. Just as he was about to kneel, he forcefully held himself back. Ignoring his legs that were about to break, he slowly straightened his back. By the heavens, are you trying to see who can last longer? Bring it on! Chu Kuangren growled. His worldly cauldron physique that was originally absorbing the lightning energy began to refine the energy stored within his body. At that moment, an incomparably majestic amount of energy was converted into pure spiritual power that was injected into Chu Kuangren's spiritual mound, rapidly increasing his cultivation level. He had forcefully broken through the realm before the ascension was over. How much energy was stored in the worldly cauldron physique? It was too much. The demonic potion of the demonic hoarder forefather, the hellfire, the sage ruler's soul energies, the 4 great wild beasts' soul energies, the tribulation lightning, he even took out the 9-headed snakelet, the serpent deity, and the boundary emperor's corpses and placed them into the avarice dimension to absorb their flesh and blood essences. All of these energies were converted into spiritual power and injected into his spiritual mound, allowing Chu Kuangren's cultivation level to advance towards the sage realm. Within his spiritual mound, the 6 supreme foundation levels radiated with divine splendor. A surge of Daoist rhymes echoed within his spiritual mound, and a purple lotus gradually formed. That lotus had a total of 9 petals. Each petal flowed with an extremely mysterious Daoist rhyme. That was the sage foundation level, the lotus of heart from his spiritual mound. 9 petals meant that this was a 9th grade supreme sage foundation level. Around the lotus of heart, the other 6 supreme foundation levels continued to release their divine splendor. Their Daoist rhymes circulated and resonated with the lotus of heart. As the 9-petal lotus of heart gradually formed, the entire firmament star trembled. A large amount of purple haze rose from the horizon and stretched for tens of thousands of kilometers. The endless purple haze surged towards Chu Kuangren's direction. All the cultivators who witnessed this scene were extremely shocked. This is the purple haze rises 30,000 miles from the east. F*ck this is a horrifying phenomenon that only a supreme sage can produce. I don't think there have been many supreme sages since ancient times. Oh my God, it was not only the firmament star. Above the firmament star, a large amount of purple haze also rose from the 9 heavens and earthly boundaries. It circled the sky and spread out endlessly. All the ancient beings in the 9 heavens were shocked. The purple haze rises 30,000 miles from the east, the birth of a supreme sage? Who is it? Who is it that has become a supreme sage at this time? Could it be an unparalleled genius? How many years has it been? In these endless years, another supreme sage has appeared. This era of great battles is getting more and more lively. The ancient beings in the 9 heavens continued to search the 9 heavens, but they could not find the source of the purple haze rises 30,000 miles from the east. If it's not in the 9 heavens, then where? Don't tell me it's in the firmament star. Stop joking. No matter how terrifying a supreme sage in the firmament star is, it can't affect the 9 heavens. Looks like it's been hidden by someone. Meanwhile, under the firmament star. In the underworld demonic realm, a large amount of purple haze suddenly rose from the sky. For countless years, the sky that had always been dark and blood-red suddenly had a different color, shocking the entire demonic realm. Purple haze rises 30,000 miles from the east, a supreme sage has appeared. Our underworld demonic realm has never had a supreme sage for so many years, but now one has appeared in this era of great battles. The heavens are definitely blessing the demonic realm. The demonic realm shall rise. Quick, find this supreme sage. Just like the 9 heavens, the great beings of the underworld demonic realm were also searching for the source of the purple haze, but they found nothing. One person became a sage, and the 3 realms were shaken. Chapter 428. Under the heavenly tribulation light beam, Chu Kuangren forcefully broke through the realm. In his spiritual mound, the purple 9-petal heart lotus was becoming more and more solid. At this moment, all the great beings on the firmament star were watching in awe. A supreme sage was truly a rare sight to behold. Even rarer than the emperors of old. Not many emperors were supreme sages before they became emperors. If a supreme sage were to become an emperor, he would be an unparalleled emperor. Under the heavenly tribulation light beam, the terrifying lightning energy continued to destroy Chu Kuangren's body. However, as his cultivation level increased crazily, his immortal body was also evolving. From the 3rd to the 4th level. During this process, his immortal body's healing speed increased by many times, and it could now keep up with the lightning's destructive speed. Looks like I'm the one who can last longer. Chu Kuangren grinned. After a while, the heavenly tribulation light beam slowly dissipated. He had successfully passed the 9th tribulation lightning. At that moment, all the great ones were in shock. He did it, he did it. I can't believe he really did it. It's unbelievable that he could even pass through a heavenly tribulation like this. Terrifying, an unprecedented peerless saint has appeared. The tribulation lightning dissipated. The purple heart lotus in Chu Kuangren's body was about to form too. However, the heart lotus suddenly trembled. Chu Kuangren sensed something strange and looked up into the sky. He had passed through the 9th tribulation lightning, but the horrifying colorful tribulation clouds in the sky still did not dissipate. What's going on? Is there still tribulation lightning? Chu Kuangren frowned. Not only him, but the others were also surprised. That can't be. The Sage Ascension tribulation only has 9 tribulation lightning. This is an unchanging rule. Why are the tribulation clouds still there? Unless, it's the heavenly punishment. One of the great ones seemed to have thought of something and suddenly said in fear. The heavenly punishment. It was an existence that was one level higher than the heavenly tribulation. Since ancient times, the heavenly punishment would only appear when there was an anomaly that was not tolerated by the heavens and earth. However, such anomalies were too rare. Boom, 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 rumbling sounds came from the colorful vortex in the sky. A heavenly Tao aura that was more terrifying than the heavenly tribulation instantly spread and covered the entire firmament star. Countless living beings were shocked. It really is the heavenly punishment. Countless mighty figures who were watching this tribulation were astonished. In the 9 heavens, the powerful beings of the hell demon world also sensed something. An anomaly has been born in this world, and it has attracted heavenly punishment? Could it be the Supreme Saint? It can't be. Breaking through to the sage level will attract the heavenly punishment? If that's the case, then it's not as simple as a supreme sage. What kind of taboo existence is undergoing tribulation? Even those primordial emperor clans and primordial descendants do not have such ability. Isn't this a little too exaggerated? Firmament Star, Black Heaven Sect. Chu Kuangren stared at the tribulation clouds in the sky. The terrifying domineering aura that permeated the surroundings had caused the air in this part of the world to become incomparably viscous. He felt as if he was now in the depths of a quagmire, unable to move at all. Hey, this is a little too much. Chu Kuangren clicked his tongue. A 9-colored heavenly tribulation wasn't enough, and now there was even a heavenly punishment. Did the heavens really want to kill him? Just when Chu Kuangren was about to risk his life, he saw streaks of colorful chains descending from the tribulation clouds in the sky. Those colorful chains seemed to be formed by countless runes, and they surged with a mysterious Daoist rhyme, as well as the heavenly Tao's domineering aura. The chains tightly wrapped around Chu Kuangren's body like lightning, then turned into countless light dots that merged into his body. At that moment, Chu Kuangren felt that the spiritual power and thoughts in his body had been sealed, and he could not use them at all. The heavenly punishment seal. I can't believe it's the heavenly punishment seal. I heard that this seal can seal a person's entire cultivation level. Even an emperor would become a defenseless commoner if they were sealed by this seal. I can't believe the heavenly punishment seal has sealed Chu Kuangren in such a way, making him live like a commoner from now on. That's too cruel. It'd be better to just kill him. Many great ones recognized the heavenly punishment seal. Some were gloating, while others felt sorry for Chu Kuangren. In the sky, after the heavenly punishment seal descended, the colorful tribulation clouds finally dissipated, and the world returned to its original clarity. However, the land that was riddled with holes was a testament to the tragic battle that took place here. Chu Kuangren frowned as he sensed the spiritual power within his body. His spiritual mound was filled with colorful heavenly punishment chains. His 6 great foundation levels and the purple lotus heart that had yet to fully form were all restricted, and he could not use any of his spiritual power at all. The purple haze comes from the east 30,000 miles transformation also disappeared the moment Chu Kuangren was struck by the heavenly punishment seal. All the great ones in the firmament star shook their heads and sighed. This Chu Kuangren is indeed a monster. He almost single-handedly wiped out the million-strong allied army, including 2 boundary emperors. Unfortunately, he still couldn't escape the heavenly punishment in the end. Sigh, this person's strength has reached the point where the heavens and earth cannot tolerate him anymore. From today onwards, this world will have one less peerless sky pride. But this is good too. With this person around, the others can forget about rising to the top. It's a good seal indeed. There were also great ones who wanted to take the opportunity to attack Chu Kuangren. However, after the tribulation clouds dissipated, the astonishing cloud of seas formation was activated again. This formation was truly terrifying. Without a boundary emperor's cultivation base, even a sage ruler would not dare to take the risk. In the end, everyone could only suppress their thoughts. After all, to them, the heavenly punishment seal that even the emperors of old could not break was definitely not something Chu Kuangren could do. There was no need to enter the astonishing cloud of seas formation just to kill someone who had become an ordinary person. That was too risky. In the nine heavens and the underworld demonic realm, the Great Ones could not help but feel sorry for the disappearance of the purple haze comes from the east phenomenon. It seems that the Supreme Sage did not successfully reappear. Has he been destroyed by the heavenly punishment seal? What a pity, the Great Ones only lamented for a while before they no longer cared about it. They still had many important things to do next. In the era of great battles, the Emperor's opportunity was something they had to fight for. They had already prepared to send people to Firmament Star to fight for it. Meanwhile, on Firmament Star, the news of Chu Kuangren single-handedly killing a million-strong cultivator army, including 2 boundary emperors, had spread like wildfire, shocking countless people. Naturally, the news of Chu Kuangren being sealed by the heavenly punishment seal could not be kept a secret. The commotion this time was too huge. Chu Kuangren has been sealed by the heavenly punishment seal? Huh, that's great. Although he's not dead, he can forget about fighting with us from now on. He's lucky to not die. What a heroic spirit to drag hundreds of thousands of people to ascend with him. Too bad he's still lost to the heavenly Dao. Now that he's sealed, the world will be ours from now on. Many skyprides who were suppressed by Chu Kuangren began to show their talents and continue to perform in the era of great battles. It was as if Chu Kuangren's seal had ended an era. Chapter 429. The Black Heaven sect was once again enveloped by the astonishing cloud of seas formation, so no one could spy on what was going on inside. Many people had already left. An era has ended. My youth is gone. Many people shook their heads and sighed. Chu Kuangren had created too many miracles over the years, especially this time. His unprecedented feat of pulling hundreds of thousands of people through ascension had earned him a lot of respect and admiration. Coupled with his handsome looks, he had won the hearts of many female cultivators, and they all became his loyal fans. However, this time, Chu Kuangren was sealed by the heavenly punishment seal and became a normal person. This made many of his fans very upset. Chu Kuangren. Even if his glory days are over, it's undeniable that he's the first person in history. His era has ended, but his legend will live on in the new era and be known by countless people. A cultivator could not help but exclaim. The crowd gradually dispersed. It was foreseeable that without Chu Kuangren's suppression, the skyprides of this world would become lively again. The next era belonged to these skyprides. As for Chu Kuangren, no matter how legendary he was, it was all in the past now. Inside the Black Heaven sect, the elusive mirage arrived before Chu Kuangren. The crowd descended from the elusive mirage and hurried to Chu Kuangren. Many of them were worried when they saw the heavenly punishment seal. Sect leader, how are you? Elder Ruyan asked. I'm all right. Chu Kuangren smiled. Elder Ruyan was heartbroken when she heard that. What do you mean, all right? That's the heavenly punishment seal we're talking about. Heh, it's just a seal. I'm still alive. Although Chu Kuangren was a little concerned about the heavenly punishment seal, he believed that he could not break free from it as long as he was still alive. The emperors of old could not. However, that did not mean that Chu Kuangren could not. Elder Ruyan, pass on my orders. The Black Heaven sect shall temporarily hide from the world, and the astonishing cloud of seas formation shall operate as usual, Chu Kuangren said. Now that he was carrying the heavenly punishment seal, he would not be able to hold out if another strong enemy came to invade. The astonishing cloud of seas formation was his best protection. Yes. Also, send some people to clean up the battlefield. There should be some decent loot there, Chu Kuangren said calmly. So many sages, sage rulers, and even 2 boundary emperors had died. There should be a lot of treasures dropped by these people. All right. Chu Kuangren handed the matter over to Elder Ruyan and the others to handle. He turned around to return to the towering heaven palace. Subconsciously, he wanted to circulate his spiritual power and turn into a stream of light, but just as he took a step forward, he realized that he couldn't use his spiritual power. Tisk, looks like this is going to be troublesome. He shook his head and sighed, then walked into the mountain gate. When the others saw this, their eyes were filled with worry and heartache. What are you all standing there for? The sect leader told you to clean up the battlefield, not to just stand there and stare. Elder Ruyan suppressed the worry in her heart and announced loudly to the crowd. Under her command, the Black Heaven sect began to operate in an orderly manner. It really is a little messy. Chu Kuangren looked around at the ruined Black Heaven sect. Although he had tried his best to prevent the battle from affecting the Black Heaven sect, the final heavenly tribulation was too terrifying. Many places in the Black Heaven sect were inevitably damaged, and many buildings had collapsed. Master, these will be rebuilt soon. Lan Yu said beside him. Yes, as long as everyone is still here. Chu Kuangren nodded slightly. When he arrived at the towering heaven palace, it was not too badly damaged. That was enough for Chu Kuangren to find a place to stay. Once he entered the Daoist palace, he began to check the condition of his body. His consciousness sank into his spiritual mound. Inside his spiritual mound, he saw colorful chains crisscrossing each other. Each of them had a large amount of mysterious Daoist rhymes and runes flowing on them. After counting, there were a total of 9 colorful chains. That was the 9 heavenly punishment seal. Not only did it seal his spiritual power, but it also sealed his spiritual power, foundation, physical body, and even his 3 supreme Daoist physiques. Only his immortal body and universal cauldron physique had some use. That was probably the key to breaking the seal. This heavenly punishment seal seems to be some kind of strange energy. The universal cauldron physique can convert it into energy, but with my spiritual power sealed, even with the universal cauldron physique, I don't know how long it will take for me to completely break the seal. I wonder if there's any way to speed up the process. Chu Kuangren thought about the various methods he had. His consciousness sensed the heavenly punishment seal, and suddenly, a thought flashed in his mind. The Daoist rhymes and runes contained in this seal seem to be able to be understood. If I can fully understand it, it'll undoubtedly be of great help to me in breaking the seal. At that thought, Chu Kuangren calmed himself down and began to understand the heavenly punishment seal. His mind was completely immersed in the Daoist rhymes. Time passed. Soon, a day and night had passed. Chu Kuangren opened his eyes. It's too mysterious. The Daoist rhymes contained within this heavenly punishment seal are so mysterious that I'm afraid even a sage ruler would find it hard to comprehend. Even with my level of comprehension, I've only comprehended a small part of it after a day and a night of meditation. How terrifying was Chu Kuangren's enlightenment. With the help of the meditative clarity of clarity, he could quickly comprehend even emperor techniques. 1 day and 1 night was enough for him to comprehend 2 emperor techniques. However, it was only a drop in the ocean when it came to comprehending the heavenly punishment seal. One could see how terrifying the heavenly punishment seal was. No wonder even the emperors of old could not break it. However, Chu Kuangren realized that after he understood the heavenly punishment seal's Daoist rhymes, his cauldron physique's refinement speed of the heavenly punishment seal was still very slow, but it was indeed a little faster. That confirmed Chu Kuangren's guess. Understanding the heavenly punishment seal could speed up the refinement of the heavenly punishment seal. However, based on my current efficiency, it'll probably take a few decades or even 100 years to fully understand this heavenly punishment seal. Chu Kuangren muttered. If it were someone else, even an emperor would not be able to understand even a little bit of it even after thousands of years. It's a little slow, but it's better than having no hope at all. Chu Kuangren shook his head and smiled. Forget it. I've spent too much time in the outside world anyway. I might as well use this period of peace and tidy up what I've learned. Chu Kuangren thought to himself. The next day. In the longevity hall of the Black Heaven sect. We've collected a total of 56 broken ferry boats, 16 billion soul stones, 7,600 bottles of medicinal pills, and 481 sage weapons, including 21 sage ruler weapons, great sage weapons. Elder Ruyan was reporting the harvest to Chu Kuangren. The eyes of the elders in the longevity hall lit up. Their harvest this time was just too huge. Everything else aside, just the hundreds of sage weapons alone were unimaginable for the Black Heaven sect in the past. It's not that surprising. Chu Kuangren's expression was calm. Putting aside the 6 great unknown lands, just the 36 islands in the outer seas alone had a bunch of sages and a bunch of sacred weapons. These items, along with the serpent deity's treasury and the opportunities of fortune that the sect leader brought back last time, are enough for the Black Heaven sect to develop for a long time. At least for the next few thousand years, we won't have to worry about resources anymore. Elder Ruyan said with a faint smile. Chapter 430. Within 1,000 years, huh? Chu Kuangren pondered for a moment before he continued, no, use it as fast as you can. There's no need to be stingy with resources. Use them all on your disciples and try to use them all up in 100 or even 10 years. Everyone gasped when they heard Chu Kuangren's words. What? Use up all our resources in 10 years? This is too much. I know that all of you have your doubts, but the main problem for the Black Heaven sect now is not how long these resources will last, but how many strong cultivators can we produce with these resources. I'm sure all of you are aware of my current situation. With the heavenly punishment seal on my body, I'm no different from an ordinary person. I need Nangong Huang and the others to grow quickly, so we can't be stingy with resources. Moreover, the disciples who are willing to stay and fight with the Black Heaven sect are all people that we should focus on training. Now is the best time for them to cultivate, so we must keep up with the resources. Chu Kuangren's words made everyone fall into deep thought. What the Black Heaven sect lacked now was not resources. It was strong cultivators. Strong cultivators that could intimidate the world. It used to be Chu Kuangren. However, now that Chu Kuangren had the seal on his body, his intimidation was greatly reduced. There was no second Chu Kuangren in this world, so the Black Heaven sect urgently needed to train a group of strong cultivators to stabilize the situation in the future and resist external enemies. They could even get a share of the pie in this era of great battles. We understand. Elder Ruyan nodded. She then looked at Chu Kuangren with a worried look in her eyes. The others felt the same. They had heard about the horror of the heavenly punishment seal from the sages. It was extremely difficult for an ordinary cultivator to become an ordinary person who could not use spiritual power in an instant. Not to mention a peerless skypride like Chu Kuangren. In their opinion, Chu Kuangren must be feeling very uncomfortable, but he did not show it in front of them. He was still handling the internal affairs of the Black Heaven sect in an orderly manner. This kid was so strong that it made them feel sorry for him. Chu Kuangren also noticed everyone's gaze and was a little confused. Hey, why do they all look like they're about to cry? Did I do something? Ahem, then let's leave it at that. I'll leave the resource planning to you guys. Besides, the elders are all honorables and honorables, so if you need any resources, feel free to use them. Chu Kuangren said indifferently. These elders all had a chance of transcending the tribulation, and with the resources he brought back, it was enough for them to successfully transcend the tribulation. When that time came, the Black Heaven sect would have a few more sages. In this ever-changing era, only a sufficient number of sages were qualified to be called a foundation. Those supreme paragons of the past all seemed rather ordinary. Chu Kuangren left the Longevity Hall and returned to the towering Heaven Palace. In the days that followed, the Black Heaven sect operated in an orderly manner while Chu Kuangren stayed in the Daoist palace to gain insights on the heavenly punishment seal. In the outside world, there was a huge upheaval. The impact of the battle at the Black Heaven sect was huge. The fall of 6 sage rulers and even a boundary emperor had dealt an unprecedented blow to the 6 unknown lands. However, none of them dared to seek revenge from Chu Kuangren. Even though the other party was currently sealed by Tian Fa, they did not dare to do so. Because the astonishing cloud of seas formation was still there. This was because no one knew if Chu Kuangren still had any trump cards up his sleeves. As long as this person did not die, no one would dare to touch the Black Heaven sect even if he became an ordinary person in the eyes of the public. However, the Black Heaven sect remained hidden within the astonishing cloud of seas formation. Since then, the Black Heaven sect had become a forbidden area. Without Chu Kuangren, sky prides from all over the firmament star kept popping up like mushrooms after a spring rain. They were all competing for the limelight. Besides that, ever since the appearance of the Heavenly Golden Palace and the other 5 unknown lands, the rest of the unknown lands had also appeared one after another. The firmament star had entered a new era. About half a year later. After the Qian Emperor Palace, the second emperor's opportunity of fortune appeared. Countless sky prides fought for it, but it was Xiao Lintian from the Heavenly Golden Palace who came out on top. It was just as the unknown lands had expected. After the Qian Emperor Palace, the opportunities of fortune appeared one after another. The sky prides took the opportunity to rise and quickly catch up to the older generation. The era of great battles was like adding oil to a raging fire. However, some people felt that something was missing. We're missing a Kuangren. Inside a certain restaurant, a white-robed old man sighed as he drank. There are so many sky prides now, and it's so lively, but we're missing a true peerless genius. The others in the restaurant agreed with him when they heard that. Back then, when Chu Kuangren was still around, he alone outshone everyone else. He was the center of everyone's attention. However, now that all the sky prides were competing against each other, none of them were willing to give in. Although it was like 100 flowers were blooming, no one could truly dominate the crowd. Although it was prosperous, there was no one who could truly impress the people. Back then, some hated Chu Kuangren, some respected him, and some feared him. Regardless of whether they hated him, feared him, or respected him, no one would deny his excellence. That person had amazed an entire era. It was not that the sky prides of today were not bad either, but they were not as memorable as Chu Kuangren. This is the end of an era. Some of the diners lamented. At that moment, outside the restaurant, a beam of light suddenly shot into the sky. An incomparably strong spatial fluctuation appeared. Everyone's attention was drawn to it. What's that? Could it be another emperor's opportunity of fortune? It doesn't look like it. There's no emperor's aura. What could it be? Everyone was confused. Only the white-robed old man who was sitting in the corner had a look of surprise in his eyes when he saw the beam of light. He then curled his lips. Even the people in the sky can't sit still. They've come to visit the human realm. On a mountain peak in firmament star. Suddenly, a beam of light descended from the sky, and an extremely intense spatial fluctuation appeared, startling half of the cultivators in firmament star. All the great ones looked at the beam of light thoughtfully. I am Xiao Jingchen of the 9 heavens. Come and see me now, people of the heavenly golden palace. A white-robed young man walked out of the beam of light, and his voice echoed across half of the world. He demanded to see the people of the heavenly golden palace. Several rays of light flew out. They were the elders of the heavenly golden palace. They looked at the white-robed young man in shock. Xiao Jingchen, your Xiao Jingchen, the Heavenly Golden Palace's first Heavenly Golden Imperial Physique cultivator from tens of thousands of years ago. Why are you here again? It's a long story. I've returned to Firmament Star from the 9 heavens to fight for the Emperor's opportunity. I hope you can lend me a hand. Xiao Jingchen said calmly. The elders were extremely excited when they heard him. This was the first Heavenly Golden Imperial Physique cultivator in the history of the Heavenly Golden Palace. In terms of potential, he was much stronger than Xiao Lintian, who had acquired the Heavenly Golden Imperial Physique. We'll do our best. Very well. Go back and prepare. Besides me, those from the 9 heavens will be here soon. Xiao Jingchen said calmly. His eyes were burning with passion. I've been asleep for so long just for this era. This time, no one can stop me from becoming an emperor. A few months after Xiao Jingchen, beams of light descended from the sky, and unfamiliar skyprides appeared one after another. The words 9 heavens began to enter the public eye. You're tuning into the Unparalleled SwordWill YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.